Hello, everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap. I am joined by Michael Huber.
Yo!
The beard is back.
Yeah, it's coming off soon, though.
It's coming off soon.
Coming off real soon.
It's not getting.
I like the beard.
the.
I think you should keep it.
the nomad beard.
Yeah, no. No more nomad.
The Tom Hanks
Yeah, castaway beard.
Yeah.
And Bradley Ellis.
Yo.
I'll be your host, Ben Moore. Huber, I want to hit you with something. I watched it
Hit me.
while on vacation. I saw that before my Twitter account was taken away from me unknowingly. You watched the Fear Street trilogy on Netflix? I also watched it.
Yes.
What'd you think?
It is my favorite horror of the year, easily. I am obsessed. I think it should be a yearly tradition, and every summer we should get some Fear Street content.
Yeah.
I just loved it. I loved how separate they were, but also how they all tied to each other.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
I would say the 1978 was my favorite.
100%.
And I really enjoyed the format that they took. I think the structure, so for those of you who aren't familiar, it's sort of like this multi-generational horror anthology where each movie, it's a trilogy, will focus on a different place of time and you're trying to like unravel this mystery. I definitely had some problems with it. I think like
It's not perfect.
there were some weird hangups I had, especially with like the third movie, but a lot of good stuff, and it was just fun. It was just
So
like a
fun.
fun thing,
So
and I think the
fun.
close release, it was like something to look forward to each week, but it wasn't like a TV show. It was like
Totally.
full feature-length film to look forward to.
So well done.
Yeah.
They gave the creator, she gave a special shout out to Guillermo del Toro for one of the horror elements of the movie. I don't want to spoil it, but there was like, look it up. It's easy to find. There was like an element of it where she was like, follow the master, Guillermo.
Yeah.
And then she said like she has just grand ideas now for an MCU style horror
God.
franchise.
Here
She
we
said
go.
the words. Yep.
Oh, God.
Here we go.
So nothing stays sacred forever, but hopefully it can remain awesome.
So I love the idea of MCU content. I really do. And I've enjoyed the MCU, which we'll talk more about this week. But so I've been going through the Conjuring movies.
Yeah.
Conjuring 2, I'd seen Conjuring a while ago.
Yeah.
But I watched Conjuring 2, loved it.
Yes.
Think it's a fantastic film
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. But then, you get into like the less good stuff.
Yeah.
Watched The Nun.
Oof. Yep.
And it's just like
Curse of La Llorona.
I haven't watched
Annabelle.
that yet. I've got Curse of La Llorona. Annabelle Comes Home.
Wait, there's 3
And-
spin-offs?
There's
For
like
the-
4 or
Oh,
5.
there's
There's
a
3
bunch.
Annabelle movies. I think 2 of them are good.
Annabelle Creation was okay.
Yeah, 2 of them are good. The first one was not good.
I thought the first one was okay. I would say I liked the original Annabelle and Creation about on the same level.
Nice, okay.
But I wouldn't say like the first 2 Conjuring movies. I'm like, the reason I'm watching all of these movies is because the first 2 Conjuring movies are so good.
Yes.
But then you're just kind of like waiting for that hit
Yes.
to be as good. And like these movies are like barely connected. The whole
Totally.
reason why I'm bringing this up
Barely connected.
it's like they're using the appeal of like an MCU thing, but they're not committing to it in a way that's interesting.
It's not meaningful at all.
And it's
really.
like you watch The Nun and it's like, yeah, cool. Like he shows up in the credits. Very neat. It's just like
you haven't
just doesn't matter.
you haven't watched Conjuring 3, obviously, yeah, right?
no.
Okay, cool.
I missed it when it was streaming.
Oh.
And they had all of them on there. They had like the entire Conjuring universe, but then they took off like almost everything.
Damn it.
So I've been having to like I spent like $4 to watch The Nun. Not worth it. It was.
They're all enjoyable.
If
is
you
the problem,
if you like, it's like I feel like sometimes my threshold with horror movies is like I can watch it and be like, this wasn't very good, but I had a good time. It's a weird, it's a weird feeling. But I need to watch the third Conjuring, which you said was kind of disappointing, right?
Diminishing returns, but like you just said, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was fun, but definitely like the formula has been done so many times now in those movies that was once terrifying is now expected.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of those moments where it's like, okay, it's Conjuring doing the Conjuring, which,
It's funny because I watched about an hour of Scream 2 last night. which I had never seen.
Cotton Weary.
Yeah, and Scream 1, obviously an incredible film. I think still holds up. Still has so much power.
Shaggy dude in it.
But like Scream 2, which I had never seen, I was like, oh, like this is still like extremely well written, like has a point to it immediately.
Yeah.
Like its satire is like still super relevant.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why can't more things hit me like this?
Totally. Like Fear Street, because it didn't take itself
Yeah.
too seriously. It really thread that needle of like,
Yeah.
this is super casual, but also like connecting so you can like dig deep into it.
Right. Well, and the thing about Fear Street that I liked is it like it has homages to other things, right?
Yeah.
So like part 2, very Friday the 13th.
The only thing missing is Jason Voorhees, honestly.
But like you have an
It's
axe
so
killer
good.
with a bag on his head, yeah.
So good.
And then part 1, has a very Scream-like opening.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. I feel like so many things kind of just get by being like way too nostalgic or like just playing the card so it feels cheap.
Yep.
And I think you could maybe make the argument with like how it uses music in Fear Street and stuff like that. But it
Little too much.
it develops its own world. It develops its own
It
reason
felt
to care.
fresh. It was
Yeah.
like honoring the past, but also like doing its own thing. It was
Yeah.
so modern, but everything it was doing was nostalgic. It was just so well done.
Yeah.
God.
Oh man, there's
Love
things
it.
I want to say, but I don't want to
I
spoil
know,
it
I
since
know.
it
It's
just
still
came
fresh.
out.
It's still fresh.
Because I feel like I can't really articulate my opinion without getting into
Yeah.
spoilers. But
Still fresh. Let people catch
yeah.
up.
This is now a horror movie podcast.
Yo, Scream 4, Ben. Surprisingly amazing. That's all I gotta
Yeah,
say.
so I'm going because I want to get caught up before Scream 5 comes out, and I love the original Scream a ton. Very impressed by Scream 2 so far. I hear 3 is like the bad one.
Yeah.
But 4.
4 brings it back. It's
Okay.
good. It's good.
All right, so then Scream 5. And I'm really looking forward to Candyman. Just bought the original Candyman on DVD, which I had not seen. Got it at Barnes & Noble for $10.
nice.
Total Whiplash. I've been watching Monsters at Work,
Oh, nice.
the Monsters Inc. sequel.
Nice, dude.
And it's just a good, in my own little quiet space. No one's fucking
When
talking
you
about this
said
show.
Monsters at Work,
Love
because
that.
I knew that was a show, the Monsters Inc. spinoff show, and I knew that it was called Monsters at Work, but I thought you were talking, because there's like a bunch of like Monster Girl animes, and I thought that's
Oh,
what you were
God,
watching.
no.
And I was like, all right, man, let's go.
No. Just wholesome Monsters Inc. content. And it's been a good time, man.
Nice.
It's been
nice.
very comfy.
Yeah, they got John Goodman and Billy Crystal back, which is
they
cool.
did.
Gotta have them.
Yes, you gotta have them.
Gotta have them.
Fuck, what was I going to say?
Scream 4 / Monsters Inc. related?
It was horror related, but I don't remember what I was going to say. Anyway.
If you remember an hour from now,
Yeah, remember an hour from now.
syndrome it out, dude. Syndrome it out. We're here.
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, part 3. So, The Witch is one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Of course.
And I feel like I've only been more emboldened in that opinion as time passes. I think it's a really brilliant film. Part 3, strong witch vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
deliberately so, seemingly. Yeah.
Totally.
But,
Which, again, ties into, like, honoring
Yeah.
current and past horror, you know? Because The Witch and that, just like that folk horror, I feel like, is the meta right now.
Yeah. Do you think that?
Well, it's turned a little bit now. We just came out of
Yeah.
it, I feel like. We just had the folk horror, like,
Yeah.
renaissance.
Yeah. I guess I can see that with like Midsummer and I guess you've got Green Knight, which
Green Knight's coming. There's a couple
What is
other
that?
ones. Like, I can't think of the name right now.
I'm putting
Move
a lot
on,
on the
move on, move on.
Candyman, the new Candyman.
Yeah.
I just think I've got a good feeling.
Same.
Boy, Spiral though. What a what a like what a garbage lazy like it was almost good.
Yeah.
And Chris Rock, very talented dude,
Doing the best he can.
but like the script doesn't support the talent on screen. Like it just it's like you did the most boring and predictable, lazy fucking thing you could have done with the story. And sometimes when you see stuff like that, you're like, I could do a better job than that. Like give somebody that actually like has the audacity to do something a script.
Take a chance.
That's why people like Wes Craven, man. It's just so
Yeah.
You go for it.
yeah. All right. Anyway, let's spend 9 minutes and 30 seconds talking about horror
Hell
movies.
yeah.
Probably tuned out a lot of people. Let's talk about the games. Brad, you've been playing it. I've been playing it. Huber, I don't know if you've been playing it. Skyward Sword HD.
No, he's not.
No.
He's played it though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he watched me play a little of it today.
So I've always been a Skyward Sword defender, thinking that it has a lot more value than people have given it credit for. But I have some thoughts revisiting it, playing this HD version. Brad, I'm curious, where Skyward Sword fell for you originally and how you're feeling about it now.
Skyward Sword, interesting. I really like Skyward Sword. I do like it, but I definitely think it has some problems.
It definitely does, yeah.
But revisiting, it's been a real nice time. For one thing, I thought the original game was just ugly as sin because it looked terrible on a high-def TV. I didn't have a CRT when I played. It just looked like dog shit.
Yeah,
it was
the
super
Wii,
bad.
the Wii problem.
Yeah, the Wii problem.
Yeah.
So revisiting it, it's been like, I'm like, oh, it looks so much better now. Just everything's better. And I was really surprised the soundtrack was way better than I remember, too.
Yes. Brad, I'm so glad that you called out the soundtrack. Obviously, a series with just some of the best music in all the games. But yeah, it really does hit, especially when you're flying on your loft wing and that triumph.
Just been hitting right.
Almost like John Williams-esque music is playing. Yeah.
So I like the motion controls in this game. I like that it was a bold design step, I guess, and I appreciate it. And that's the only way I play this game. I've been having a good time with it. It's been a little finicky sometimes.
Are you doing motion controls again, or are you doing button?
Oh, I'm doing motion controls.
Okay, interesting, because I've only done button so far in the HD.
Oh, okay. I tried the button out and I did not like it.
Okay.
I think it's cool that it's an option. I appreciate that, but I prefer the motion controls. To me, that's the intended way they designed the game.
Yeah, the button controls have been really interesting, Brad, because in some ways I like it a lot better, and it's certainly very different than what you're used to, and it takes a long time to kind of get comfortable with it. Not a long time, but a lot of games you play and you're just like, okay, yeah, I immediately understand this. But even because the right stick completely controls your sword, you have to hold the left bumper and then turn the right stick to change the camera. And so you'll run into situations where it's like, oh, instead of turning, I drew my sword, and just getting used to I need to flick it this way if I want to go left, and it's just wrapping your brain around everything. But in some ways it works a lot better, and in some ways I think it's clunky. I think it's on par with what I remember from the Wii controls, but I'd have to go back and
Sure,
and
I just
compare.
feel the connection way more with
Yeah.
the motion.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
get sad when it's just the discourse for a little bit here was just about motion controls. I felt like everyone was talking about right when this game came out. And I just it bums me out because they have their issues, like you were saying, but that was an unforgettable, kind of a one-off for me. The Skyward Sword motion controls, it is the most memorable part of that game for me, was using those controls, feeling those fights, and just it had a little issues here and there, but it's hard for games to be truly original and unique, and the motion controls in Skyward Sword I feel were one of a kind.
So I'm totally with you, and I think that is very well said. But I think the reason why that happened, and there's a bunch of things for this, right? Where Skyward Sword was late in the Wii's life cycle. It's not here's the Wii and here's Skyward Sword. And so I think what happened is sort of this negative bias against motion controls is just a lot of people didn't use it that interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Even Nintendo,
Totally.
I think, they have some great examples. I think Wii Sports Resort is really cool. Obviously, the original Wii Sports. You have things like Skyward Sword. There are more examples, but they're kind of spaced out, and then you have a bunch of this is just really annoying or not creative or not really pushing the format. And you play Skyward Sword, and it's they're really trying, and it's every step of this they're thinking, how can we implement this in a way that is meaningful to the gameplay experience? Doesn't always work out like you're saying. But I think it's like when a new Ubisoft game is announced. It's I have enough experiences where it's the skepticism is inherent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It doesn't mean that it will be bad.
Yeah.
But the skepticism is justified. But anyway, getting off topic, Brad, beyond the controls, and I'm glad you brought up the graphics, because I do think that this game has a style that really benefits being shown off in high definition.
Oh yeah, I think it was the Zelda game that needed the most out of all of the GameCube era kind of ones.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But in terms of the story, the characters, the design, all that stuff.
The beginning, I'm always okay with, especially in Zelda games, I am okay with the slow intro. In fact, I like them kind of because I get to really know the town and the characters, but man, it takes a while to get like going in this game where you're out there and actually fighting stuff, and I could totally see why a lot of people don't like that. It's the same thing with Twilight Princess. A lot of people complain because the intro's so long.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I think about like Breath of the Wild now, where it's just like you're like immediate out there in the world, just going doing whatever, and this is very like you are doing this specific path for a long time till you get to go out there.
I want to talk about the slow opening because I've been playing this with my wife, and we've been playing Breath of the Wild as well. So it's been nice actually. Comparing
the contrast.
Yeah, it is, and it's a sharp contrast. But because she came into the experience knowing how much I liked the game, and then there was a moment where she was like, "How long have we been playing?" And we're still in the Skyloft intro, and it's like we'd been playing like an hour or so, and it's like I was like saying to her like, "Don't worry, it gets better," but I too am okay with slow intros and like kind of establishing things. And I think that's something that Skyward Sword does better than other Zelda games is you kind of getting to know the place where Link is from and the relationships that he has with people and all that stuff. Like I think there's really good stuff there. And I feel like this is a common problem in other Japanese games. It's just like the way that they write things. It's like you're using too many words to say like simple things where it's like you can explain this like ritual of the goddess in like half the words that you chose to do it. Because what's interesting is after you get past the intro and after you do like the first dungeon, you can come back to Skyloft and you can kind of like get involved in side quests. And the way they designed it is actually really cool where it's like, hey, my daughter is missing, and then you're kind of wandering around, and they leave it open-ended enough where it's like, you need to find this person, so you just kind of naturally explore and talk to people and like get to know their own little personal stories, and that is like way better and more engaging than like the just like tons of exposition, just very drawn-out exposition, I think, in the beginning. At least in my opinion.
I've only beaten the first dungeon, but I'm really curious. From what I remember from the game, the dungeons being really cool in the game.
And even the first dungeon,
I think is pretty good, but I remember they get a lot better, so I'm super curious to revisit a lot of these things, because the dungeons are one of my favorite aspects of Zelda games.
Totally, yeah.
Especially after coming off Breath of the Wild. Well, I think they're fine, but I definitely miss the more traditional dungeon sense of this game. But I do think also what's unique to this game is how you handle the, like, when you're on the ground or whatever, the quote-unquote open world. It's not. It's just like it's almost like little mini dungeons, I guess, where you're placed in these areas, like, solve these quick little puzzles. Here's some shortcuts. Do these things for this guys. I think that's a really interesting design, but I kind of do miss having this feeling of being out there in the world and just kind of exploring, which they do.
Like in comparison to, like, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I think Breath of the Wild did that really well, but Skyward Sword feels very, like, sectioned off, very sectioned off. Like
it is.
You're in this section. You're in this section. You go up in the sky. There's kind of stuff to do in the sky, but there's not enough. I feel like it's a missed opportunity. Like I wish there was more in the sky, but like I said, I do need to go through this game more and just see all the dungeons. I like playing. Something I like about this game is the items feel very interactive for me because it is motion controls. I like really focus on it a lot more than I do in other Zelda games. It's totally a gimmick. The motion controls are all gimmick, but I'm okay with that, and I'm having a good time with it because it's very unique.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I think it makes it even like a little bit more painful because some of the side stuff that I think Skyward Sword has is good. Like I don't want to spoil it for people, but there's like this side quest involving this monster, and I think like narratively it's very charming and very cute, and the idea behind it is very solid, and I love the idea of going down to the surface, finding these cubes, you hit them, and then it's like, oh, that's going to activate a chest in the world, and then going out and seeing it. So I almost wish there was kind of like more dynamic stuff between the surface and the sky like that. I think that's a really good idea. I think the pumpkin bar is just one of the coziest places.
It is.
So good.
It's really good.
But it is very sectioned off. You're completely right about that. But I think something that kind of makes Skyward Sword special is if you've been playing Zelda games for a while, you know, I think this applies to both 2D and 3D in a lot of cases. A lot of the basic enemies, like, you just don't even think about. You just kind of, I'm generalizing, but you just run up and you just slash them. That's how it works. But here, like even the most basic enemy, it's like, it's guarding this way, I have to attack, or like its mouth is opening this way, I have to attack. And it's like not that complicated. I don't want to overstate it, but I think that kind of design really makes even smaller encounters feel like just a little bit more special. Or like there's this really good, this fantastic moment in the first dungeon where you are crossing a rope, and when you cross a rope, you have to balance, right? Which is a common thing in video games. But they have two enemies come as you're walking across the rope, and you have to like get close to them and shake the rope, and like you can fall off, and then your stamina's draining, and it's just like genuinely tense and fun, even though the encounter probably lasts all of 60 seconds, you know? And it's just like, I think that level of thought and care.
How do you
is
attack
really cool.
I remember those things. How do you attack them without motion controls now?
You just
So the way that it works is, it's actually really interesting because, like, if you flick a direction, the sword will go that way.
Oh, so it's on the right stick.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
It's funny because, like, thinking of the motion controls in Zelda, I immediately thought of Skate. You know how in Skate you use the right stick to like mimic the motion that you're doing. It's kind of like that. That's kind of the first comparison that came to my mind. But the way that they handle some of the more advanced techniques, so like the spin dash, you don't do by like doing a circle. You have to go quickly left, right, left. And there and then there are times where like the finishing blow, like when they get knocked down, which is very powerful and very useful, you have to do up, down, up. And like if you don't do it right, it won't activate. And so like I've had like inconsistency.
Got it.
Because you're like, oh, the enemy's down. I have like, you know, a couple of seconds to do this move. And so you just do it quickly and it's like, oh, it didn't register.
Right.
Yeah. So some of that stuff is a little bit weird. But yeah, I think that the actual design of the enemies is really good. I love the like 3-headed snake enemy.
Yeah, you gotta chop all the heads at once.
Yeah, it will keep moving its heads in a different pattern.
Sick.
The Girahim fight is
cool.
Just so cool. It's so cool. Yeah.
I was getting concerned that you weren't going to name Girahim in this. I wasn't going to allow it. I was like, if they don't mention Girahim by name, we're not moving on.
Yeah, I have things to say about Girahim, but this is probably not. Again, it's spoiler related. But his initial encounter with Link is
it's really good,
menacing in a way that I wish Zelda was like more menacing in the way that initial encounter was. Yeah, for sure.
It helps when you have a villain that you could put like a villain you could follow throughout the story.
Yeah,
like Breath of the Wild does not have that. There's no person like that throughout the whole game.
Right.
Like Ganon is just off of the castle. You like don't even fucking interact or see from him ever. That's why I'm hoping they do something like that in Breath of the Wild 2, where there be some sort of villain throughout the game you can connect with or something.
Yeah.
Another aspect of Skyward Sword that I feel like is not talked about very often is the upgrade system and the durability system. So it's not like Breath
just
of the
the
Wild.
shield.
Yeah, where like your weapons break and all that stuff, but your shield has durability, and I love that there are different types of shields. Like your wooden shield is vulnerable to fire and doesn't last very long, but you can spend resources to upgrade it, or you can use those resources to upgrade other things. Like you can even upgrade the bug net if you want to catch more bugs at once. And just that kind of thing. I think it adds an RPG element to it without kind of going overboard. Like, you know, I don't think it needed like experience points or like individualized stats or all that stuff, but like the way that they do it kind of gives you a reason to come back to Skyloft. And like when you go to the bird statues, it's like, do you want to return to the sky? And you'll have moments where you're like, maybe I should like, you know, get that potion that can restore my shield durability, or maybe I want to upgrade my shield, or just something like that. And you'll go back into the sky and you'll revisit Skyloft. And I think that's why Skyloft, in comparison to like other Zelda towns, like is really like, oh, I remember that person. Oh, I remember that person, because you get to know them because like you have a reason
to go back.
Keep going back.
It's like the game's hub essentially.
Yeah, but it's like a hub that feels like it has a strong presence, I think, throughout, which is really really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I do. It's very like minor stuff, the upgrades you do, but it's something I appreciate. Like even just being able to upgrade, you know, a bag to hold more like slingshot ammo or something like that. Like I like little things like that.
Yeah,
they don't have to be super complex. I don't have to look up some fucking how to build this gnarly like sword or something like that.
You don't have to worry
about
the
meta. Farm mats, all that kind of shit. But it's just cool little things. It's a nice little experiment. I hope they mess around with more in future games too.
Yeah.
This seems like they did with Breath of the Wild. You know, your armor, you can upgrade your armor and stuff like that. So I'm hoping they do more. Yeah,
you were talking about the sort of pre-dungeon dungeons, and you're totally right. That's what they are. And I remember because I finished the first dungeon, and then I was doing a bunch of side quests in Skyloft. But I was like, when I landed kind of in the woods, I was like, oh, I remember loving this, like just running around and like finding secrets and doing all that stuff. And then going through it again, I was like, there's really not that much to do.
Right.
Like, and it's not as intricate as the dungeon is. And I still think there are good things about it, but I agree. I think especially comparing it to Breath of the Wild, and boy, could I talk about Breath of the Wild this entire podcast, but like, I love the feeling in Breath of the Wild where like I see something and then I become obsessed with figuring out what it is. And I feel like in Skyward Sword, at least in that first area, you kind of like get it all without really having to put any effort in. It's almost like an amusement park ride.
Right, yeah.
In a way.
Like I remember you revisit areas later on and stuff.
Sure.
I just don't remember very well.
Sure.
I haven't beat it since 2011.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, no, definitely.
So I'm curious how it'll evolve.
Yeah. Going back to the characters and that, I wish this was a design thing that more games used. And I think RPGs are like especially guilty of this. Because like in RPGs, when you talk to somebody, like your initial conversation, so many times it's like, here's everything about me and here's all my problems and please fix it for me. And it's just like, that's just not how people interact. Like no one does that. And I feel like we just kind of get locked into these routines for like what's acceptable in certain genres and we don't really like push it. And this is not the best example of what I'm talking about, but like you go into the bazaar in Skyward Sword, which is a wonderful place where it has all these different vendors.
Sure is.
And like they have something about them. They don't tell you necessarily like everything, but you're like, I want to know more. And like the item lady, she's just like completely disinterested.
Bored, yeah.
Like everybody else is like so jolly and jovial for the most part. But she's just bored and disinterested, and you're like, what is going on there? And then you go into your house at night, and she'll give you, like, a little bit more insight. And it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, I just love the idea of some distinguishing characteristic being immediately obvious but not fully explained, and then you wanting to know.
Totally.
You know, because it's like, it's nice, I think, to have rewards in games be beyond, like, here are the items you get, here's the experience you get, here's the gun that you get. It's like, oh, like, I'm glad I did this because, like,
you learn more about
attached to the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild, that island that you go on, it's like, it's just fun to do because it's just so creative, you know, and I think those types of things are the absolute best.
Yeah, it's been a definite interesting adventure coming back to this after Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Where they're, like, complete opposites in design.
I'm really hoping, because I 100% agree with you, that in comparison, the Divine Beasts are so lacking compared to like Skyward Sword's dungeons. I hope Breath of the Wild 2 fixes that.
Yeah, that's my number one request.
Yeah.
Pretty please.
Because I think beyond that, like, I really don't have any substantial problems with
and a villain being in the story, actually.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's a good point, Brad. It's interesting, though, because I think Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess sort of try to do that, but then, like, drop the ball with the villain in a weird way.
Oh, sure. Because it like did two villains.
Yes.
It's like, here's the villain you think, then it's just like, JK, there's another villain. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I think that can work in some aspects, Ben. Like, having a villain that's not on screen really at all. Like, I think one of my favorite villains of all time is Sauron. And, like, you never hear him speak. There's, like, no fucking dialogue from him, nothing. You never see him. But he just has such a presence throughout the whole narrative. And Ganon kind of had a presence, I felt like. Kind of.
Well, I think the ring is a big part of that because it's
exactly
like,
it's like a part of him in the thing.
It's like a power.
You could feel him.
It's like a power that's like stronger than everyone, but no one fully understands, and it kind of like affects people in different ways. So you do kind of get that constant presence, but it's not like, oh, here's this guy in armor all the time.
Taunting
like,
you throughout
taunting you.
the story.
I do like in Breath of the Wild, kind of like Sauron, right? Because, when you think of Sauron, you think of the Eye of Sauron. And you kind of have that with, Hyrule Castle and him, controlling it.
Right.
You can see it in the distance. So I like that, kind of that just sort of in-world
Just
reminder.
needed more of that.
Yeah.
That's why I got excited about the Yiga clan in that game.
Yeah.
I was like, here we fucking go.
Yeah.
And I love the Yiga
man.
clan.
And it's like, I feel like in Zelda, they never know how to, like, fully address, like, the Sheikah tribe and like, commit to it. Like, you kind of like get hints about it, but they're too busy focusing on other aspects to really delve into it. But in Breath of the Wild, like, that going into the fortress and everything that you do, it's, like, such a fantastic part of the game that feels so different. Yeah, definitely. Huber.
Sup.
You've been playing a game that, when it came out, made quite a splash, and I ended up really loving it. I don't know if you finished it, but you've been playing Doki Doki Literature Club Plus.
Yeah, I finished the main game. I didn't do the plus stuff, though.
Okay, yeah, because I'm actually curious, like, how substantial is that plus stuff?
It's like side stories.
Yeah, side stories.
Yeah.
So do you know who the side stories are for?
The female characters.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Asking that question, it's like, well, who else could it be for, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it's for them.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't know how it was structured and stuff.
Yeah.
But
it's like in the menu, you go to like a separate tab and you do them that way.
But the main game, and I guess maybe not everybody's familiar with this game. It's been a hot minute since it came out. So what is Doki Doki Literature Club?
It's like a visual novel / It's like pretending to be one thing, but it's like a little more than that. It's kind of a weird game. It is a weird one. The conversation I really want to have is like expectations and stuff, and like playing something at the time, because I did have expectations for this game and they didn't meet them. Like, it was fine for me in the end. Like, I know you love this game. I know this game has such a following.
Yeah.
But in the end, I was just like, okay, it's fine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I really love games that have sort of a meta slant to them, which this game certainly does. So, you think of Nier, you think of like Suda 51 games. These games tend to resonate with me just because it feels like they're trying to do something different. Metal Gear is a great example.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah. And I think why I had it's been a long time since I played it, but I think why I had such a respect for Doki Doki Literature Club when it came out is, I think it's fair to say, without really getting into the weeds, that like things get disturbing and it becomes more of a horror story than maybe like the cover art would lead you to believe. But it doesn't just like end there. It's not just like, I don't feel like things are just messed up for messed up's sake. Like, it kind of has twists on top of that that really kind of kept me glued until the end, I would say.
Yeah, and I think the expectations, right? Because I know that this game had a big secret. I assumed like something was going to happen, but that stuff doesn't happen for like a good hour or so. So then, I'm trying to be in the moment, trying to, drop everything like I always try to do, but it just, getting there didn't hook me. Like, I was never really connected to the world or the characters. I mean, some bad shit happens and it's sad, but because of my expectations, I think, I just felt like everything was at arm's length.
Yeah.
So I never fully could get invested in it. When it was all said and over and the credits rolled, I was like, I'm glad this game exists. Like, this is dealing with some really intense subject matter that is not always talked about. But in terms of gameplay and stuff, I didn't fully enjoy my time. Especially, too, because you replay the game a few times. I don't think that's a spoiler. And a lot of during that replay, it's the exact same stuff you've already done. You can, like, skip it.
Yeah.
But it just, again, it felt like just kind of going through the motions, trying to get to the stuff. And then when it finally hit, because of my expectations, it was like, oh, okay. It didn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me, and I want to kind of like explore this, because I think it could be like a couple of things where, like, it's one of those things where sometimes like the internet just won't shut up about something, and like
this was definitely one of those things. I
Yeah.
feel like, which was, but it was a while ago.
Yeah.
So much time had passed. It wasn't like no one was
Yeah.
even mentioning this re-release. Like I went into it like, oh, I'm really excited to play this because I've heard Ben rave about it. I
Yeah.
know this is a big one. So I went in like excited, but then just it took so long to get there, and then when it finally got there, I was expecting what was there.
yeah,
So then
yeah.
after that,
I
I
wonder.
just
I wonder how
couldn't-
you would feel if like. It's like a week after the game comes out, you don't know anything about it. The world
Yeah.
hasn't really consumed it. You don't know
Totally.
that it's going to get fucked up.
Totally.
And somebody was just like, just play it, just trust me. And like, I wonder how
Yeah.
your feeling would be there.
Yeah, because we've talked about the zeitgeist, and me personally, I've turned a corner with the zeitgeist of like,
Yeah.
yo, play it whenever. There's too much. You don't need the zeitgeist. Like, it's almost fun playing games way later because there's way less noise.
Yeah.
So you can enjoy it in your own little bubble. But this one felt like maybe I needed to have played it then.
Yeah.
For me personally,
I
that's
think
that's just me.
I think that could definitely be it, because I think of Undertale and like I think Undertale is a really cool game.
Yeah.
But when I finished it, I was like, I don't want to talk to anyone about this because like people were treating it like the second coming of Christ,
yeah.
where they were
Yeah.
like, this is the greatest game ever made.
Yeah.
It's flawless. It's so good, and it's a really cool game.
Yeah.
But it just like the almost like religious devotion that popped out around it. It was like I was like, it's not that great, and it's like I feel like as time has gone on, I think like things have cooled off a little bit, and people are now able to be like, oh yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not like. I'm gonna carve this across my body in blood.
Yeah.
Like it was just a level of fanaticism that was like a little bit too hot, and so I think that can like kind of warp your perception in a way that you don't even intend, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not a conscious thing. The other thing I think is, I don't mean this in a negative way, but I don't think like you're like fully buffered against visual novel bullshit.
I like Danganronpa for what I've played a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I scrubbed out on it like halfway through, but I loved that game.
Right. But I'm just I when I think about visual novels, and I'm I'm not the most well versed either, but I've gone through a number of them at this point, and it's just like it's so different than even like an adventure game.
Totally.
It's just like
Totally.
You almost have to convince your brain like, okay, I'm not playing a game, I'm reading a book. Yeah.
Totally.
And it's a very different, I think, interaction sometimes.
Yeah, I think you were mentioning some games earlier, and I think I just don't like meta stuff aside from Metal Gear. I didn't like 13 Sentinels.
Oh man.
Nier Automata, I scrubbed out on.
Sure.
I was just like, yo, I don't need this heady stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and this, like, I don't know. There's just something about meta commentary where I'm just like,
Doesn't do it for you.
I don't need to hear it.
Yeah. I think I just get like there's some meta commentary where I'm like, oh, that's like actually good commentary.
Yeah.
And then there's some
Like
meta
Metal Gear, I'm
commentary.
obsessed.
There's some meta commentary where I'm like, okay, that wasn't profound to me, but like you had an idea and you went for it, and I have like this admiration for just like going for it that I can really appreciate.
But even the TV show Legion, that's meta, and I don't like that. These are like the few things I really don't like.
Yeah.
And I think we just figured out that it's
Meta commentary.
stuff. Yeah. Just leveled up in my brain.
Yeah.
Or some would say down level, because those are all like 10 out of 10s for a lot of people.
Man, it's so funny that you mentioned Danganronpa because
Love that game.
Yes, I adore it
Yeah.
as well. In fact, while I was on vacation, I just bought another Danganronpa shirt.
Nice.
But anyway, yeah,
I always want to go back to it.
I adore Danganronpa, but what's interesting about Danganronpa is, like, there's, I guess, some meta-ness always there, but the point that I'm trying to make is, from Danganronpa 1 to Danganronpa 3, like, Danganronpa 3 becomes, like,
that
hyper meta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because one felt so small scale, like a crime thriller.
Yeah.
Which I'm so into.
It just keeps ballooning. Yeah. In a way that, like, I think is super fascinating, but I don't know if. Oh man, there's so much I want to say because Danganronpa 3 is fucking insane. Anyway, but yeah, Doki Doki Literature Club. You weren't really feeling. I think
I want to still recommend it though. Honestly, I think if you like the games we've been talking about and you're curious about it, like I would recommend this game. But I didn't connect with it. But I saw how you would connect with it. You know, I was never like, oh, this game sucks, overrated. I was just like, oh, okay, I'm not emotionally invested, but this is a cool game still.
Yeah, talking about the meta commentary thing, I think the games that really stick out for me, like the original Nier is very, I guess, meta in how it's structured and has kind of an overarching plot. But I think the reason why I love the original Nier so much is like that's not even the stuff that I think about when I think about Nier. It's like I was on the lookout for that stuff.
Yeah.
But what really got me is how invested I was in the intimacy of the characters and how personal their stories got and how strong their relationship was with each other. And I would not say Doki Doki Literature Club is as strong as that is in that aspect, but it's annoying in meta stuff when you're just sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's much better when you're playing it and you're like, okay, I know the shoe's going to drop, but like I'm kind of interested in what's happening right now. And I enjoyed like doing the poetry stuff, getting to know those girls. I thought that stuff was fun.
Poetry was fun.
Yeah, I could totally see how maybe somebody wouldn't be into that though, or it's not the most engaging.
Yeah, it's like, so when you bring up Nier, I really liked my second playthrough of Nier for ending B because they add new stuff to the story, you get a different perspective. But then when I did like C, it's like, hey man, just get all the weapons, and I was like, dude, this sucks. I don't want to do this. Why are you doing this? Like that's replay shit I don't enjoy doing.
For sure. Yeah, I get it.
This in Doki Doki, at least you can, when it's redoing conversations, you can just skip them. Which is nice. So like a lot of the replay stuff is alleviated, which is smart design, I think. But then I'm like skipping all this dialogue, and then I put my brain on autopilot. I'm like, yo, I'm not even in this right now. I'm fast forwarding. Like there were just so many things that prevented me from fully getting engrossed.
Yeah,
bummed.
Huber, when we talked about Nier Replicant, you said to me, you know, it's like, did you feel the grind? I was like, absolutely, this game is a giant pain in the ass. And that's totally true. But this is such like a classic pretentious game journalism thing to say in a way that like doesn't usually hold as much water as people think it does. But there's a thing that happens in Nier where I was like, okay, it doesn't negate the fact that all this stuff was a pain in the ass, but it feels intentional in a way that I can respect. Right? Nice. Because, you know, going back to like the RPG thing where I was talking about like, oh man, it's a kind of annoying where in all these games you meet somebody and they just present themselves identically. Yeah. It's kind of interesting to have side quests in a game where you're like, oh, that like affects the way I feel about this decision. It's not just like
Mass Effect.
Yeah. I think like, again, just like even if you don't do it in the most elegant way, or if it's not like perfect, it's just trying to think outside of the box.
That's good.
It's so cool. And
anytime developers are making risks, dude.
Oh, that's Nier.
Shout the hell out. 10 out of 10. Good on you. Like we have enough Ubisoft games as it is.
Yeah.
Take chances. Take risks. Love it.
And to wrap this around back into Doki Doki Literature Club, the ending, I think, and what happens kind of justifies the repetition in a way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. 100%. That's why in the end, I was not like, I shouldn't have played this. I was like, oh, I'm glad I played this. I just didn't emotionally connect.
Totally, yeah. And I love that. I love that because, you know, so many people play it and they're like, oh my God, so cool, so crazy. So it's nice to have somebody that's like, yeah, this didn't really click with me. But I also think like, man, what if you had played it and you just had no idea?
I know.
Yeah. And that's and we talk about it all the time, and you've actually really influenced my opinion on spoilers, and I know how much that can affect you. And it's like, sometimes I think a spoiler like that, when somebody's like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to see until you react to this moment that I'm not going to tell you about."
It's the worst kind of spoiler.
In a way, I think that's like almost worse than like spoiling the thing.
I agree.
Because it just like
something's going to happen.
Because then you're not consuming the thing for the thing itself.
Yep.
You're consuming it for that moment that your friend talked about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a very different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully maybe one day, like 5 or 10 years from now, I can like do a revisit like I do and have a different perspective.
Well, I'd be curious, like the toughest thing about doing a meta story, right, like this is like, well, now how do you do, what's your next project, right? Because then it's like, then you don't have that element of surprise anymore.
Yeah. And well, I heard the plus, I regretfully couldn't bring my plus impressions to this.
Yeah.
Because the idea of it sounds interesting, like fleshing out some of these characters with additional stories. Like maybe that would have got me to connect more.
For sure. It's so funny because the next game we're going to talk about is so far removed from especially what we just talked about, but pretty much everything we've been talking about this episode. And that is the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection.
Oh, okay.
Sick.
Yeah.
Pull up my chair real quick.
Yeah, let's do this. Razor's Edge, dude.
Yeah. I want to talk about Razor's Edge.
The only one I haven't played.
I've never played it either. I just like saying Razor's Edge.
So I have a lot of love for Ninja Gaiden, and I have for a very long time, since the days of the original Xbox. When
that game was so sick when it came out.
Holy shit, it was insane.
Yeah.
It was a
so
landmark
good.
game.
It was a landmark
it was a landmark
game,
game. And
dude.
It's one of those landmark games where you don't have to say, well, for the time.
Yeah, no.
Like, and maybe
It felt like a game 5 years from the future, dude.
And maybe-
Straight up. I was like, how is this a video game?
Yeah, I would say in a lot of ways, like I still have a ton of love for the original Devil May Cry, but I think the original, or not the original, but Xbox Ninja Gaiden has held up better
Sure.
in terms of design.
I feel like
mechanics.
Devil May Cry's gone a long way from one.
Yes, so that's the thing is I think like Devil May Cry evolved in a better way, but anyway, this is a whole. We're removed from the point. What I want to get out of the way is I'm playing the PC version of this collection, and it is just the laziest thing in the world. They didn't add anything.
I was waiting for like
it
is the best port I've ever. That's what I wanted.
It's serviceable in like the most depressing way, where it's like I guess I can play this, but you did like nothing. You can't even change. So PC games, right? Like part of the benefit of having
FOV
PC games is
sliders.
you can change things. You can tweak things to get an optimal experience. There's no settings. There's none. To change the resolution. Maybe they've patched this.
I think there is a patch.
Okay.
I saw. I don't know if it's out yet, but there is a patch coming for it.
Well, when they originally released this, and when I was playing for review code,
but this
may be changed. Don't take my word for it. You couldn't change the resolution in the game. You had to like go into the game's files to change it, which is insane.
It was like
I had
1995.
problems with the controller where it's like if I had two controllers plugged in, it just like wouldn't work at all. I would like have to remove profiles in Steam.
Like I would have to watch a how-to video on how to change the resolution.
How to change it.
There was like a definite period of time. I want to say like the PS2 era where like if you were playing a PC port of a Japanese game, you were just gonna have a bad time. Pretty much. Yeah. It felt like that. Where like, you know, there have been a lot of ports and a lot of as PC has kind of grown and gotten more attention, I think things have gotten better, but this felt like going back to the
Arkham Knight
Dark
port
Age.
days.
Yeah, it was like that, where maybe not as catastrophic, I don't want to overstate it, but at least on PC so far, and again, I don't have all the information.
I mean,
which is
that
regrettable.
seems like such a weird thing to not have in your game.
Yes.
You can't change the resolution in the game.
It's just, I think the reason why I'm so angry
It's like 2021.
is so far
holy shit.
The one I've played the most in this collection is Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. But I've dipped into
I
Ninja
didn't
Gaiden
play Sigma 2.
and I've dipped into Razor's Edge. I've played all of these games to varying degrees before, but in this collection, the most I played Sigma 2. However, what I want to say across all three games is like they deserve better.
Yeah.
And it just makes me mad.
Yeah, it's sad.
Because like outside of the issues with the port, these games, even Razor's Edge, they're landmarks, but they're just, it's like, we need more of this, and I feel like we're almost starved for it. Like, yes, you'll get once in a blue moon something like Devil May Cry 5, but I really love that competition, or like it feeling like it's thriving, and you've Platinum doing their thing, but all I'm trying to say is I miss Ninja Gaiden because
me too.
It's just this sort of, it's like a game that can't exist anymore, where like you play it and the cutscenes are so ridiculous and goofy and like stuck in like an 80s metal album cover, but it's not self-aware at all. Like, not really. Like, you can tell like Itagaki was like, yeah, man, I am the coolest dude ever.
Yeah.
And like that combination of like confidence mixed with like almost like childlike ideas of what is cool makes for like this game that story-wise, character-wise is as deep as a puddle, but that almost makes it more charming, but it's just so mechanically rich. And like, think about how many games you play. We were talking about Ubisoft games, right? Where it's like, you feel like you can almost play them in your sleep, where like your brain almost becomes a computer where you're like, okay, I'm going to open the map. I'm going to go to this point. I'm going to do the thing.
Stealth everyone down.
And then it's going to make a noise and it'll be like, good job. You get the XP, right? And every fucking second of Ninja Gaiden is like, you feel like you just took like 3 5-hour energies at once. Right? Like, it's just, even at the most basic opening level,
dude,
the best level.
The opening level of the first game is so rad.
Best level.
Because you get in this fight and then you're like, oh, that's my master. And then
the ninjas coming through the walls. I can't even.
Yes.
It's too good.
But what's so good about Ninja Gaiden, and it's interesting because, we talked about Devil May Cry 5, and you were like, oh, man, I wasn't really feeling it. And it's like, okay, if you're not like totally obsessed with the combat, going through these levels isn't always the most interesting. There's some interesting stuff for sure, but it's really a game about combat first and foremost. Whereas combat is very essential in Ninja Gaiden, but even just going through these levels is really cool. Like, there's awesome platforming.
Airship.
Wow, okay, awesome might be overdoing it. The platforming
good
controls
for the
could
time.
use some work. But there's puzzles. There's like, you remember in the original Ninja Gaiden, that city where it like sort of branches off and you like keep returning to the central point and then you go off in another branch.
So
there's
hard.
kind of this, it's not open, it's not an open world game, because it's more interesting than open world games. Like, there's this handcraftedness to it. There's this variety to it that is awesome, on top of like these enemies where like, it's a shame that people always associate this with Dark Souls because, Ninja Gaiden happened way before that. But like, I love the idea of when you injure these enemies, they'll have like a desperation attack that makes them stronger. So you'll have to take care of them right away. And so it's like anything, if you aren't paying attention, anything can be a threat. And that's just so
Did they make it any
cool.
easier?
I don't think
Are
so.
there any difficulty options?
So in 2, I like chose a difficulty setting that I thought was like normal, and I was like, this is way too easy, so I had to bump it up. So
Did
so
1 have difficulty options?
I don't remember.
I think you can. I think in 1 you can, if you like mess up a bunch, it might give you easy mode, but I don't know if I'm remembering.
I don't know what black adds necessarily either. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think booting up Sigma here I was given a difficulty option.
There's so many versions of Ninja Gaiden 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
so
hard.
This
for
is
me,
Sigma.
really
This is Sigma 2.
Never finished
Well,
them because of difficulty.
what's like
just
so
brutal.
I actually have not played the original Ninja Gaiden 3, which I would like to, because people complained that it was too easy, that it was too QTE heavy. So Razor's Edge is like a very, from my understanding anyway, a very transformed game, because it's fucking hard as hell. Like, Ninja Gaiden 3 is the sort of black sheep of the franchise, but it's such an interesting, Razor's Edge is such an interesting game, and it's so demanding, and enemies can just move so fast. Like, you'll have moments where you're like, oh, I'm dead, and it's like, I'm dead in like literally the blink of an eye. Yeah. Like, you have to have like sort of this speed and dexterity that I think people associate with things like the original Ninja Gaiden or Ninja Gaiden 2. And so I think Razor's Edge has kind of gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to recognition and appreciation, because I think there are some really cool things about it.
I think Razor Edge, when it came out, was just on Wii U, though.
Yes.
So that's probably...
Yes. So there's a bunch of things. So Ninja Gaiden 3 came out. Everybody hated it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't even want to play it because it seemed like so depressing. Everybody just shout on it. Then Razor's Edge came out specifically to Wii U, which is where I played it originally. And then later, yes, it came out on 360 and PS3. And so I think that mess of a story is probably a reason why.
What is the Razor's Edge?
Just how...
Is it like he's on the Razor's Edge? It's not like a thing. There's not like an organization.
Well, he has like a blood curse.
Yeah.
I believe is what it is. Yeah. And so he's walking on the razor's edge because of this
metaphorical
this affliction
razor's edge
that he has. Yes, yes. So that's where that comes from. But it's also a nod to the transformation of the original Ninja Gaiden 3 into Razor's Edge and how vicious it can be.
I've wanted to revisit these games for years because I have yet to finish them. They were they stopped me in my tracks numerous times.
Yeah.
I remember always dying at some underground giant beast.
The first game has a lot.
one?
Yeah, I remember underground stuff in the first game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
feel
God.
like the underground beast though, I feel like you were decently far.
Yeah.
Well, I got a little far, and then it would die every time. Every time, couldn't beat it. Tried 100 times on that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was doing something
You're a
wrong.
different gamer now.
Yeah, I'm a different gamer now. Now I can like probably figure out at least what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas back then I was just like throwing my head against the wall.
It's about the jutsus.
Yeah. Now it's like okay, I can like analyze this a little better.
Brad is definitely on the right track because what's funny about a lot of games is like you don't even realize that you're not playing them well, right? Where it's just like, oh, there's a lot to this, but you don't need to pay attention to like, 30-40% of it to succeed. Not the case in Ninja Gaiden,
Use
where
your
like
tools.
I think this is just human nature, right? It's you form habits, right? And this is why like fighting games are so fascinating because you'll lose and you're like, I need to stop doing this thing, right? Like I need to stop jumping. Ninja Gaiden is the same way where it's like, oh, if I figure out how to use this tool in this situation, suddenly this becomes way more manageable.
Yep.
Again, it's like the freeze grenades in Doom Eternal.
It freeze
like
grenades.
Yeah.
The freaking freeze grenades.
It forces you to think outside the box and out of your comfort zone, which
Right.
I always love.
Right. Totally. I've just been kind of slammed with reviews, and then I was just visiting family for 2 weeks, and so I have not been able to dive into this collection with the gusto that I've wanted to, but in the time that I've spent so far, it has really made me think like the world needs another game that can feel like booting up Ninja Gaiden the same time, where it has that razor's edge to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
where it kind of forces you to pay attention.
I feel like I got glimpses of that in Neo.
Yes.
Where you can just die immediately. It's obviously the same people.
Right.
So I'm hoping I really hope they do Ninja Gaiden 4.
Yeah.
Especially
That'd be
after
so cool
Neo 1 and 2.
Going from a Souls
Because
back to
I'm pretty sure Ryu's in Neo as a boss too.
It's his father, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
So I'm really
That's
hoping they
dope.
do something.
That's dope as shit.
Like I think they've learned probably a lot because like they had a new director for 3 and everything like that.
Is that a cheeky nod like an Abstergo employee in Watch Dogs 1, or is that
I don't know.
canon?
I don't know the depth
No, I
of
think
it.
it's. I mean, Team Ninja just loves doing that, right?
Yeah,
So Dead
yeah.
or Alive, right, has a bunch
Yeah.
of Ninja Gaiden
Yeah.
characters, right? So it's
I
just
wouldn't
like,
think. I wouldn't
just
look
for
too.
fun.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
look too deep into it.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Watch somebody like write a novel explaining how we're wrong, but yeah, that's my take on it.
True.
Yeah.
So Brad, I want to talk about Neo because I reviewed both Neo 1 and Neo 2. I have a lot of love for those games. I think they're extremely fun. They actually have a lot of good ideas. Probably my favorite Souls-like outside of the Souls games. But what's interesting about Neo in comparison to Ninja Gaiden is I will never feel as Can you just Hubert? Can you just go and hit another time on the laptop so we don't have that Windows bug?
It's in the other end.
No. It's right there, right by the door.
Oh, yeah.
Hit it.
I'll never feel as passionately, I think, about Neo, despite loving it, as I do about Ninja Gaiden, because for all of the strengths about Ninja Gaiden, it feels like it's sort of remixing somebody else's ideas. And it's doing its own thing, right? But I think the 3D Ninja Gaidens nothing feels quite like them. Like, obviously people make the comparisons to Devil May Cry, but you play Devil May Cry and you play Ninja Gaiden, and like they're just so different in how they feel, like just on a fundamental level. That I think that's why I yearn for a new Ninja Gaiden.
I'm trying to remember, like, what I associate with Ninja Gaiden was speed.
Yes.
From what I remember a lot. Like,
yeah.
It's been a long time since I've played it, but I distinctly remember being, like, more fast than Devil May Cry. Not to say Devil May Cry is slow, but, like, I remember Ryu just being really fast. Like, moving and jumping is super fast in that game.
Right. So a big, like, pillar of Devil May Cry philosophy is utilizing a wide variety of moves to incapacitate the enemy as long as possible.
Sick combos.
Yeah, and having better combos will yield you better results in combat.
Like,
whereas Ninja Gaiden, you're not like doing like crazy long things. It's just like doing the right thing at the right time. So it's speed, and I think another word that would go along with it is precision. It's
like technique. the jump and attack where he does the dash forward is like
the flying
essential.
Follow. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I think it is honestly one of those games, you know, even if you don't finish it or you get stuck or whatever, despite my disappointment with how like phoned in this collection is, if you've never played these games, I think these are games that should be experienced, or you should try to appreciate them, because I think there's just so much.
Especially if you like action games in any way.
Yes.
Pretty essential.
Like like we said earlier, they're not Devil May Cry or like Bayonetta in style of combat.
Right. Yes.
But it's its own take on it, I guess. Which is a cool take also.
Remember Bayonetta 3?
Yeah. It's cooking, man, somewhere.
It's cooking.
It's in a slow cook pot or whatever, you know? It's just taking a long time.
Yeah.
Crock pot.
Hey, we're getting SMT5. It could be worse.
Happening.
All right, it's time to sizzle, baby. So a lot of times with the sizzle, I'll do like, what is the worst thing of this? You know, I try to bring in some heat, but I don't want to follow the same format every time. So I want to take a more positive route on this sizzle.
Okay.
And so what I'm going to ask to you guys is, you know, outside of Easy Allies, what is like your gaming source that you really just like kind of love from the bottom of your heart? So this could be like traditional news organization. This could be a Twitch streamer. This could be a YouTube channel. You know, just anything I think in the gaming sphere that covers games in some way. Like what is something that is kind of like either meant a lot to you or currently means a lot to you?
Actually, I get a lot of like impressions from Twitch and stuff.
Nice.
Just watching someone actually play the game is like my preferred method to learn about a game usually.
Are there any particular streamers that you?
It depends on the type of game. You know?
for sure.
Like Metroidvania, Souls, like Distortion 2 is one of my favorite streamers.
I watch him quite a bit as well. Yeah, I like him. I agree with you, Brad. I watch Twitch all the time, and like different people kind of resonate with me for
exactly.
Reasons,
it's like important to find someone you can resonate with on a level and understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. Like, like you'll watch somebody and it's like you mentioned Distortion, right? He has a sense of humor for sure, but he's just like also incredibly good and extremely persistent. Whereas watching somebody like Eris,
I love Eris. Yeah,
I love him too. But it's just like. I'm not watching him because he's amazing at the games.
Right.
I'm watching him because he's like...
He's just really entertaining.
Maybe the best shit talker in existence, you know what I mean? And he's just like... He's just very funny and just very abrasive in a way that is entertaining. Yeah, man, I'm with you on Twitch. Huber.
I still get magazines, PC Gamer.
Yeah, you've read PC Gamer for a long time. So what is it about PC Gamer that you love so much?
I mean, at this point, it's just like habit. Like I've subscribed to magazines my whole life, and they've just like never really steered me wrong. It's a little different nowadays. It's like I find myself slightly disagreeing with them every once in a while, whereas like for the longest time I was just like, yes, they are my gods, like the religious cult following of PC Gamer.
Yeah.
Nowadays though, Eurogamer is my go-to. It's my number one by far. I love Eurogamer. All their features, all their reviews, Digital Foundry. They have like such a perfect...
Digital Foundry's great.
Yeah, they have such just like a... They hit all aspects
I feel like Eurogamer
of like
has
what
like
I need.
been able to do video content.
Yep.
That I haven't watched a lot of it, admittedly. Because what's interesting with me about Eurogamer is they used to be a huge source for me. I would read them all the time. But in recent years, I would say like the last 5-6 years, I haven't really kept up with them. Not, it just happened. It wasn't like a conscious decision. So that's cool that you're like, they still got it. So
I like them a lot.
Nice.
Quite a lot. They just had a feature on Life is Strange, so you got me.
Easy bait.
Yeah, easy bait. Like legit, like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Huge Life is Strange feature. It's like, yes.
It's funny because a feeling that I get, and I think this is exacerbated by the fact that this is my job, is like a lot of gaming content feels very similar or very shallow. It's a lot of like, okay, we're going to talk about this thing and then we're going to move on to the next thing. It's a very fast-moving industry,
right?
By necessity in a lot of ways. But and so I've come to appreciate YouTubers who are like, hey, I'm just going to do this 2-hour-long video that's like really interesting, entertaining. Like it has a sense of humor to it. It has a voice, has a personality. But it's just digging into something that feels meaningful, right? It just doesn't feel like it's saying what everybody else already said. And so one of the first people that comes to mind with that is H Bomber Guy. So he does political stuff. He does things outside of games. But when he does games, he really digs into it in a way that I just absolutely love. So like recently well, not that recently, but he did a video on like Fallout New Vegas, right? Not the most relevant thing right now, but is able to break it down in such a way where it's like, I've played through all of Fallout New Vegas. I love it. I've heard people talk about it. It has a lot of praise, but you watch it and it's like, this is giving me, so much more insight, so much more perspective. It's really trying to like be like, not this is a good game, but here is exactly why by digging into the minutia, this really holds up or is special in some way.
I do like videos like that sometimes, but sometimes I'm like, man, this is too long.
Yeah. No, Brad, I'm with you,
I'm like,
man.
this doesn't need to be this long.
It's funny that we're saying this on
it's a
the
case-by-case basis.
Podcast,
Yes, of course.
There's an irony there. But yeah, no, and that's kind of the shitty thing about YouTube, Brad, is like somebody does a format well and is successful, and then people copy it to the point where they like what originally made it special is no longer good. Yeah. Man. So, like, listen, you're not all great video essayists. I'm sorry. Like some of your videos, people out there are just too fucking long. It's just too long. So I'm with you, Brad. It can just be.
I mean, yeah, it's of course a case-by-case basis, But I've just definitely seen videos where I'm like really long. And I'm like, this is great. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, you didn't need to be this long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're going on too long about some things.
I'm with you 100%. This positive sizzle is brought to you by some wonderful shout-out tier patrons. If you want to find out more, if you want to be shouted out on all of our various podcasts, you can go to patreon.com/easyallies. And for this one, since I knew we were going to be talking about Skyward Sword, why don't you give me your best Link, who infamously doesn't talk outside of some exceptions. So I want you to give me what you think Link would sound like if he were in this room right now. So shout out to Elthanas, Greg TheDarkKnight Kettering, Caleb Togi Crawford, Edsgar So I'm a Spider So What, Esdoccal, Nick, Blue, and Dave McKilligin.
Shout out.
Shut up!
Hot.
I feel like you were like honoring the silence there, Brad, in a way that I liked. All right, Brad.
Yee.
Talk to me about Scarlet Nexus.
Oh, Scarlet Nexus. Weird ass game.
I want to play it.
Okay, so have you just like dipped your toes in this?
Nope.
Have you okay.
I've played like 15 hours of this game.
Nice, okay.
Yo, is it meta?
I mean,
Well,
I
I
haven't
hate
finished
it.
the game. No, I don't think so. There's like politics in it and stuff, I guess.
All right, I love political intrigue.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on in the game.
Sick.
It's I believe this is from the Tales team, I think it is. Or Damiani was telling me something about it. That's why he was interested in reviewing it. Anyways, it's at first glance, I was like, oh, this is going to be a very traditional, JRPG anime kind of game. In my mind, I'm like anime bullshit kind of game where there's going to be a lot of tropes and stuff like that. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I love a lot of games like that. But I thought I knew exactly what I was getting into kind of thing. And it's just it's an action game, action RPG kind of game. So action-y combat, kind of like nowhere near the depth of Devil May Cry, but it's trying to be an action game like that with party members.
Right.
Go through this location. There's a bond system where you give people gifts, you level up them, you get new skills. But what's interesting about this game, I think that's really set apart for me, there's 2 playable characters, and you pick who you want to start at the beginning of the game. They each have their own story, and they cross paths. So there's 2 characters. I picked the guy characters, a girl and a guy.
Yeah.
And you find out their story, and they go through. You intersect at parts, but then I don't know what the other person's going on through the whole game. So I'm like, what the hell's happening in their story? And they say it's actually been intriguing. I've been like, what's kind of going on here? A lot of mystery going on right now.
I actually streamed the demo. If you want to go check that out.
I played the demo too, and I was like, this feels like a 7 when I played it. Maybe.
So that's actually what I wanted to get to, because I played through the demo and I was like, this is fine. You know, this is definitely swimming, to say it very succinctly. But then I was talking to Damiani, and the way that he described it definitely made me believe that there was more to the game than I was able to see.
Me too. I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be all right. But it's been better than I thought it actually would be. Okay. So it's been surprising.
Does that because the thing I think that was really distracting me from the story in the demo is it was just presented in kind of a not very dynamic way. Like, it was just like character heads kind of being superimposed on top of each other.
That's what a lot of the conversations are, you know, just like these portrait kind of things going on. But there is, you know, some cutscenes, I guess, and all that stuff. But
there's more to the story.
Yeah, there's a lot to this story, actually.
Okay.
Like, I was surprised how much the story really matters in this game. Like, I think that's kind of the standout to me, is the story and just finding out the intrigue. I actually like all the party members too. I've actually gotten to know a lot of them. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of into these characters. You know, I just saw like them. I'm like, whatever. It's just going to be pretty stereotypical nonsense. But
now, is that coming through, you know, just going on missions and seeing cutscenes, or is there like a hub where you can?
There is a hub. You have like a safe house you hang out in. Everyone kind of has their own section in the safe house, like their own little display area, and you give them gifts and they put them up in their own thing. And as you give them gifts, your bond levels up and you get a new story cuts. It's very like they're chasing the Persona bond system for sure in this kind of thing, which, hey, I'm into. So it's been good. Getting to know your party members makes them a better or more effective bond in battle with them.
Yeah. What I find with a lot of gift-giving systems in games is like you'll be able to give them gifts and a meter will go up, but you won't really like necessarily get to know more about them in a meaningful way by investing in them. But it doesn't sound like that's the case.
No, yeah, you get to like. I think it's been nice to get to know these characters more than I thought I would. Or I'm getting invested more in them. And I really like, because not only does the bond give you more story, it just increases what you can do in combat with them. So essentially, you could have 3, or you have 4 party members you could have on your bar, and they're all bound to a face button. So you hold like R1 and you push triangle or whatever. It'll give you a power associated with that. Like, one of the party members can light your sword on fire. One of them gives you a shield where you don't take damage, and so on. You could use these in combat, and they have a meter that runs out, so you gotta wait for it to refill after that. But if you level them up, you get the ability, they'll take a hit for you in combat.
Cool. So
the stronger your bonds with them, the more they could do. Like, you can have them do a special attack. Like, usually you don't control them. You can give them kind of like brief ideas how you want them to fight, but you could eventually level it where you're like, I want that person to attack that unit right now, and they'll do a special move. So there's been an incentive besides story to level them up.
Cool. I think one of my biggest complaints coming out of the demo is I definitely thought the combat had a lot of cool ideas, but the environments that I
pretty boring.
Yeah. And I remember in Code Vein, like, I also had that complaint. Does that
it's the weakest
get
point
better?
of the game.
Okay.
I think the environments themselves, like the backdressing, gets better. There's like more variety, but the layout themselves is not very interesting. Where I'm like, oh, that was cool. Like, one of the characters, you get an ability where you could go through a wall or something like that, or a gate. So that's some sort of progression, I guess, in design. But it's never like, you're never going through this level and being like, oh, that was really sick design-wise. So it's pretty, it feels very basic, I guess.
Sure.
I think that's the weakest part of the game.
So you mentioned playing 15 hours. And I think in a lot of games, especially nowadays, the problem can be that it's a good game or it has enough ideas to be a good game, but it doesn't necessarily justify its length. Do you feel like 15 hours in, you feel really excited to
I want to keep going. Yeah, I do.
Is that just because of the story, or you think like mechanically?
I think the combat is good enough.
Okay.
It's not the best combat I've ever played in a game like this, but I think it's pretty solid for a game like this.
Right. Yeah, I think it all comes down to kind of like what you were saying is not only do you need to lean on your entire party to handle certain situations, but it's not just like an ability that you're like using. It is associated with a person who has their own personality, which I think makes it a little bit more.
Yeah, it
special,
does. It makes it better for sure. But yeah, I think if they do a sequel, I really hope they do better with the environments.
Yeah,
where it's like really interesting to explore. I mean, the game is divided up by stages essentially, so you have like a world map. You can push it like, I want to go to that stage. It feels very disconnected, which is okay, I guess, but I wish they just felt a little more connected in an interesting way.
Yeah,
because like we've come a long way in level design in games, especially with these kind. So at least room to be desired. But it's not like where I'm fucking bored out of my mind. Going like, I know this game. I love this game. Don't get mad at me, but I think Tartarus and Persona 3 is super boring. And I always feel like, dude, this is so boring. I love this game, but this is so boring.
That's just true. Yeah.
It hasn't hit like that level for me at all. It's more interesting than that.
Cool. Huber, you've just been happy as a clam because you've been having a nightmare.
Dude.
A Mr. X
Goaty,
nightmare.
Goaty.
The DLC that you've been...
Yep.
The DLC that you've been waiting for, Streets of Rage 4.
I've been waiting my whole life for this.
Okay.
Or your whole life.
This is the culmination of Streets of Rage.
Over Streets of Rage 4 proper?
The entire, like, Streets of Rage 4, I can safely say, like, I already said it was the culmination of the franchise. This is the definitive icing on the cake.
So why is this so hype?
So, when Streets of Rage 4 came out, obviously, it's 12 stages, campaign.
Yeah.
You know, couple difficulties.
Unlockables.
Unlock all the characters. But, you beat it a couple times, and then you got everyone unlocked. Not
for sure.
Real incentive to go back. This is all I ever want to play now. I have this major itch that needs to be scratched daily. Literally before I came here, I made Brad wait outside my house because he drove me. He came to my house. I'm like, yeah, I'll be right out because I needed to finish my run of this.
Even though he knew I was coming at a very specific time.
He's like, I'll be there at 4:30.
He does not care.
I was like, dude, I'm on floor 18 right now. I gotta keep going. So this picks up actually after the game contextually. There's just like some text that pops up. It's not a spoiler. It's like, yo, Dr. Zan from Streets of Rage 3 has used Mr. X's, destroyed brain again from Streets of Rage 3. To create a simulation, a fighting sim. So there's actually context for it. On the title screen or whatever, you see everyone like jacked into these pods and Mr. X's brain just in the back. So this is basically kind of a roguelite where you'll fight some enemies. At the end of each round, 2 power-ups pop out and you get to pick one. They range from your final hit and heavy attack do toxic damage or fire damage, or you can get 15% move speed. You can get your damage up. You can get a golden weapon, which just owns everyone and lasts a really long time. You can get score ups, just all these options. You can stack them. So if there's one that's really fun where it's like, all right, you get a buddy now, a holographic buddy enemy. You get it again, you get a stronger enemy. You can level that up a couple times to get like a boss on your side, which I still haven't done because there's just so many possibilities. It's always random. So you go through floors. You can do this one player all the way up to 4. And you go through these floors and it's just random encounters and it's just so good because the Streets of Rage 4 gameplay is near flawless beat-em-up action.
Yeah.
And it's just the best excuse to jump into this game and beat up some thugs and crack some skulls. It always feels like you have a chance to, get a new high score, get to a higher floor. The world record right now is like floor 46 or 47. Damiani and I got to like 23. I can only get solo to like 18, so it's really difficult. You can die in a flash, but I haven't even said the best part. The best part about all this is that it adds 4 characters, 3 Streets of Rage 4 characters, so you have Streets of Rage 4 Estelle, Max, and Shiva, So fun to use these characters. Holy crap. They're all so different. They're all so much fun.
Can you take them and then use them in the story?
Yes.
Cool.
And even better, I still haven't said the best part. And Leroux is in the game. You have to do the old code, which I never even knew there was a code in Streets of Rage 3 to just unlock him.
Are you Mr. X?
No.
Okay.
I wish.
If he knew the code, he would.
Yeah. In the original Streets of Rage 3, I always killed the trainer first, and then Leroux runs away, and then when you die, you can spawn as Leroux. Apparently, there's a code, and you can do that now in the DLC to unlock Leroux. So he's there. So now every single character is there. The only characters missing now would be a Streets of Rage 4 version of Skate and Dr. Zan. Streets of Rage 4 versions of them. That's all that's left.
Man, I really want a Streets of Rage 4 Skate.
And I really want a Streets of Rage 4 Dr. Zan too. Totally. Still haven't said the best part. So, when you play this, you earn XP for all the characters, the one you're using, and you can unlock new moves.
Oh,
Every freaking character, dude. Streets of Rage 1, the Streets of Rage 1 characters only unlock one new special. That's it.
Still.
It's so cool.
Axel's, so instead of calling the cops or whatever, it's called like pipe something, and he just throws like 10 pipes at you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Streets of Rage 2 characters have 4 unlocks. And Streets of Rage 3 characters. Leroux and all the Streets of Rage 4 characters have 5 unlocks.
Mm.
And it's freaking awesome, dude. You can use all those. Any character with all their unlocks can be used in the campaign. So you can use anyone and all their moves that you unlock. It takes a while to unlock these, so there's like incentive to play this mode. I don't even need incentive because it's so damn fun. And that's pretty much it. Mr. X's Nightmare.
Is there no new story levels?
No new story levels. So this is just this little mode. This is $8. The base game's $25.
That's a steal.
A free title update, even if you don't buy this mode, gives full balance changes. So over the course of a year, they've balanced Axel in Streets of Rage 4 heavily. This one, they just rebalanced Cherry quite a bit. Or Blaze? I feel like Cherry. They added color palettes and a training mode, dude! Like a freaking fighting game. It's so good. They added like 19 or so lessons from basic attacks to advanced attacks to defense to every single character gets their own training thing to learn how to use them. So it's just an incredible package. Now it's I can honestly say it's the best beat 'em up of all time. Straight up.
Not all training modes in fighting games are created equal because some allow for a lot more options than others. And so when I think about like a Streets of Rage 4 training mode, really great idea. Love it.
Yeah.
It's just like, can you tweak it where it's like, okay, I want to be like on this stage fighting these enemies. Like I want to practice this situation.
You can mess around with a lot of parameters.
Okay.
Tons of parameters. You can throw weapons in there. You can do it. Like you can do free training and make them do things and have co-op free training.
Cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
So much fun.
Is this the end of support for it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I do not know. This is my dream. That they add the Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3 campaigns. Literally, Streets of Rage Ultimate, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Streets of Rage Mania.
Yeah, it'd be flawless. It would be flawless because a lot of the base game and now this DLC as well has retro stages, retro enemies, which makes it so cool too because again, it's just a random floor every time, random powers. So sometimes you'll just go into the club from Streets of Rage 2 and you're like battling old enemies and bosses.
And
you'll go into
I assume it plays the music from
the music. They've got throwback music. They have new music for this DLC. A lot of new tracks. I'm speechless. It's my favorite thing right now.
Hubert,
I can't stop playing it.
It sounds pretty hype.
It's so hype.
Yeah.
Like I know we're streaming Mighty Goose tomorrow.
We should stream this instead.
And all I want to do is play this mode.
We gotta call an audible
player
right now.
Like I need to do this 4 players because I've only done it solo and 2 players with Damiani. And
we got to do it.
We have to do 4 players.
When we
so
did the Streets of Rage 4 stream, I had so much fun, dude.
Yes. When so for high scores, it only keeps the records of single player. When you add other people in there, once you beat around, if people die, one of the power-ups is you can revive your team. So you can do that, but then you can't pick a power-up. So you're losing out on a power-up at the expense of reviving your team. I field tested it today. I just hooked up 4 controllers because I needed to know this. Even with 4 players, when you beat a stage, 2 power-ups pop up. Only 1 player gets a power-up. So... there's that. I thought maybe with 4 players, like maybe 2 people could get power-ups.
Just 1.
But they're still, even on single player, all the way to 4, only 1 person gets a power-up. But like last thing I want to say about this is the arenas get a little repetitive.
Sure.
Which is a complaint because they have kind of these specially crafted arenas that have like traps.
Yeah.
And they are arenas. It's very arena based. Some levels, you know, you're throwing people off, you're getting knocked off. So I would have liked a couple more levels. That's really my only complaint. But in terms of like a first effort, like I can't like a Streets of Rage roguelite now. Like take this concept and go a step further. Oh my goodness, maybe like long-term progression, more fleshed out levels.
Right.
Because, I am running into an issue now where it's like, dude, I can only really get to floor like 16 to 18 to 20. Like, that's it.
Would you be into these roguelike elements being baked into the campaign?
I'd like it separate. I think that's why I think
you don't want like a beginning and an end kind of thing.
I think just a separate mode. So you have your campaign. You don't mess with that.
No, that's what I meant, though. Like a roguelike kind of elements.
Yeah,
beginning and end.
Like a side story roguelike thing. Yeah. Totally.
Okay.
Totally. I would love that. Like I feel like this has so much potential now.
Yeah. Speaking of Skyward Sword does this really cool thing where you kind of get to see somebody else's perspective on how the adventure played out, and that just doesn't happen enough. Like, you have so many games where it's like, okay, it's just this character or these characters. It'd be neat if you were like, you could, like, the roguelike was like, this is how this boss got here.
Yeah. Or like Dr. Zan is like doing some...
Many different ways you could go. But very, very cool idea.
Totally.
So, like, the thing that, like, people kind of always say about beat-em-ups, or I feel like the sort of hackneyed complaint against beat-em-ups, or it's like, oh, it's mindless, or like... You know, it's too repetitive, and it's like, well, like, not the good ones. And I think Streets of Rage 4 is a perfect example of that, because I was like, boy, this game is like so immaculately balanced.
Yeah.
Where like there is depth, there's things to dig into, but they didn't get like so crazy about it.
Yeah.
Where it's like you could still have your buddy over.
Yeah.
And like
throw some punches.
You know, have a beer and like. You know, have some pizza. It's still like kind of retained the classic arcadiness of it while having depth, is what I'm trying to say.
Totally.
So this is leading me into my question about the DLC, where you mentioned you're like, hey, you can unlock these moves with these characters, and it's like, okay, well, how is that balanced? It's like does it take forever to get these moves? Do you get them way too quickly? How, like, is it doled out in a way that feels good?
Really good. Yeah, you'll do. A run lasts about 20 minutes. 15 to 25 minutes probably is a good rough guess.
Yeah.
After a run, you'll unlock like 2 of the 5 moves. And then like another run, you'll unlock maybe like the 3rd move. And then so like you do it like 4 or 5 times with a character and you'll unlock their moves.
You mentioned like being able to go farther with more people. Is there online matchmaking with this?
There is.
Nice.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That definitely is a step up.
Yeah. I mean, there's online matchmaking with the campaign. I don't see why it wouldn't be here. I'm 90% sure. Actually, now I'm doubting it, though.
Hubert,
I feel like it's there.
Hubert, that happens to me.
Yeah.
Like
all the time.
No, like every Frame Trap episode, there's like 5 things I'll say where I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know that, but now in the moment I don't know that I know it. Yeah.
Check the tape, viewers. Why don't you do a quick Google search of that?
It's amazing how you say something and you're like, yeah.
So much fun. Play it. Holy shit.
Cool.
I was just thinking about how much you're going to have to adjust his audio in post.
Yeah, dude.
On that segment.
Yep.
Mental note.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Hyped.
Mental note.
Unbelievably hyped.
I feel like for the Streets of Rage 4 segment, you almost want it peeking from Hubert.
Sure, yeah.
Creative decision there. We're not going to spend too long in this, but I do want to give a quick update on Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Stories.
So I talked about it, and there a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm approaching 30 hours in. I'm like 29 and a half hours in. So I've put a substantial amount of time into the game, and I would say overall, I still feel the same way, where it's good and cozy, but it's not great. It's not blowing my mind. I still feel that way. And so in that aspect, my opinion hasn't changed, but now it's like sort of preying on the things that I'm sort of a sucker for in a way that, like, I'm kind of just having a good time regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So something that I think it does well is the same thing that I think regular Monster Hunter does well, where there is reason for you to constantly collect stuff. There is reason for you to constantly go get new monsters. There is reason for you to constantly get into fights because you can take all that stuff and essentially recycle it into your character or your monsters in a meaningful way. And that is just like a classic RPG thing that I think when done well is enjoyable no matter what. So to like illustrate what I'm talking about a little bit more, you can alter the genes of the monsters that you collect. It sounds like more
Orochimaru.
drastic than it is, than it's like that it's like actually presented. But so your monsters have genes, and you can alter them to the point. So they all have different types. You can even like change their type if you alter it enough. But there will be bonuses. It's like gene bingo. So you have a 3x3 grid, and if you like put the same color of gene, if you like do a row, you'll get like a bonus.
Oh.
So on my Anjanath, I have it all red, and so I've buffed up his fire damage by so much because I have all these bingos going on. But to like the way that you do it, the way that you add new genes is you have a monster that's going to be inheriting the genes, then you have a monster that you're pulling a gene from. But once you pull that gene from that monster, they're gone.
Whoa.
And so that's...
So you, like, break down a monster into matter and kill
Yeah, I
it.
was gonna say, do they die?
It's really, like, not a violent process.
But you're killing it.
Yeah.
You're breaking it down.
Yes, the idea of it is much more traumatizing than how it's presented
that's
in the
some
game.
like evil genius bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like
But anyway...
Resident Evil villain.
Yeah, dude.
Perfect.
It's funny. It's funny because you talk to a hunter who, like, because people, and I'm so sick of people bringing this up. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to play Monster Hunter because like you're hurting the monsters and that's not right." And it's like, first of all, how do you play any video game?
I know, yeah.
But
every video game.
Second of all, like anyway, like that's not the profound point that you think it is. But anyway. It's funny because one of the hunters that you interact with actually like tries to justify it. And it's like, hey, this is why we do this. This is why we hunt the monsters, and he gives a little bit of an explanation. But it's funny thinking about that because you're with the way that you're saying it, where it's like, I'm gonna take your gene and then melt you down.
Yeah. That's so funny.
So much more gruesome. But anyway, so. You have to be like, do I want to sacrifice this monster? And that's actually like kind of a more meaningful decision than you think it is because on top of like monsters having certain types that you'll need to exploit weaknesses and just general strength and that sort of thing, monsters will have skills that help your exploration. So it's like, oh, I want this creature because it can swim. And if I don't have a creature that can swim, I can't get over here to get this treasure chest. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And so that's not tied to strength at all. It's just like this monster can do this thing. And so you have to think about that as you're breaking down these monsters and putting their genes in and all that sort of stuff. So that's really neat. But then like, you get in fights, you gain experience, you level up, but you will get materials from the monster like you do in regular Monster Hunter. But in regular Monster Hunter, I feel like a lot of people will just sort of find their weapon and stick with it, right? So you played longsword, you play hammer, I play greatsword, and it's just kind of like, this is what I'm comfortable with. Yeah. Well, here you use 3 weapons, and you'll switch between those weapons mid-combat because it's turn-based to take advantage of, again, a weakness.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you'll get these materials from monsters, and there's so many different ways you can use them. Where it's like, okay, do I want to forge new armor? Do I want to upgrade the armor I already have? These come with their own skills. Do I want to, which of my 3 weapons do I want to upgrade? Which of these 3 weapons do I want to use? And so it's like, you really want to get out there and fight a lot because you end up needing so many resources.
Can you deplete the monsters, or is it unlimited battles? Because I remember they show them on the map. Like when you're running through the map, you'll see a monster.
Yeah.
Do they keep like spawning, or can you just like wipe them out?
Yeah, so like you'll go to an area, you'll fight. No, you don't make them extinct.
Okay.
So you'll go and you'll fight them, and then you come back to the area, and it's like, there's more of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can grind it out.
You can grind it out. Yep. But I think just digging into the gene splicing, like it's not a hard game by any means, but I think just the usefulness of exploration, and again, it's not just fighting monsters, right? It's like, there's mushrooms on the ground I want to get, there's bones I want to search through, or I want to mine, all that kind of stuff. Like that sense of progression and constantly building is satisfying, and so I think that's really the thing that I've been enjoying the most so far. It's just
I saw that
really
monsters hatching in the video, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. So the monsters hatch, and like. That's kind of an interesting system as well, because you'll end up collecting multiples of the same monster. And they kind of have this interesting system where you get the egg, and like the color of the egg will be associated with a specific type of monster, but it won't necessarily tell you which monster that is. So you just kind of learn by doing, where you're like, that's the pink egg, it's going to hatch this thing. So you kind of get familiar with it in a way that's sort of cool.
Fun.
But you'll collect multiple monsters. But some eggs will like be better than others, where it's like, this one will have better stats, or like the monsters will have different genes. And so, there's a point to the repetition, because just because you got the same monster again, there might be more going on there that may make it useful in some way. So I think all of that stuff is pretty satisfying and pretty well thought out, for sure.
So what are you not enjoying about this?
What am I not enjoying about this? So I mentioned before that it's very charming, and it is. It's a very jolly game. I think even just looking at it, you can kind of see that just with the style. And there's a wholesomeness to it for sure. It's very much a kid's story, but it's also kind of one of those kids' stories where it's like, I know what is going to happen with these characters before it happens, because I've seen it so many times before. And it's not like, again, I don't think Monster Hunter Stories 2 needs to be a meta game, right? I don't think it needs to be a Nier. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying I think it is so basic in its characterizations and its storytelling that like I have no attachment to what's going on beyond this is kind of cute. That's it. Yeah. And so that's disappointing.
I was so invested in World Story, and then and then Rise. I was just like,
I would not say I've really been invested in any Monster Hunter.
I was
story.
invested in the context of it all. I was invested in the world and the monsters. Not like, this character, I love you. It was more of like the curiosity of it all.
Sure.
Whereas, I didn't get that in Rise.
Well, I think the story just, because it's a turn-based JRPG, there's more emphasis on the story, and so I think its weaknesses like are more apparent than they would be in your sort of more action-focused Monster Hunter game, where like I feel like the story can kind of like just comfortably fade into the background, and not too much of consequence is lost. Yeah. Here, it's purposely kind of being shoved into the foreground in a way that I don't think does it a lot of favors. So there's that. And so the combat, I think the systems kind of underpinning the combat are really good, but there's just kind of a slowness to it that becomes cumbersome. Like you can speed up the combat by like, so you can do like normal speed, 2 times speed, and then 3 times speed. 3 times speed is still too slow.
Shit.
And I think that's really telling, because I think what you're doing, right, where it's like you trying to coordinate attacks with your monstie, and that's what they call them, and the other AI companions that you have, is good. Having to use different weapons that are effective against different parts of the monster are good. Like learning tells of the monster so you know when to use a power attack, a speed attack, an attack. All that stuff is good, but there's just like, even at 3 times speed, it's like, oh, I got to see the animation where, my character brings out their bow, or like, oh, we're going to do a double attack, and so they're going to focus in and attack, and it's just like, enemies have enough health, I think, often enough, that, like, it just kind of takes too long sometimes. And, like, when you greatly overpower an enemy, you can just instantly resolve the fight, so that's nice, but that doesn't happen a lot, in my experience anyway. Yeah. So there's just kind of this, I think, like, it has so many elements to it. The combat has so many elements to it that it almost slows it down in a way that, like, is fine, especially in big boss battles. You don't care at all. And, like, the animations that you have when you do some of these, like, super powerful attacks are really cool and really well done and creative. But when you're on your, like, 200th fight that day, it wears on you in a way that...
Right. Can you not turn some animations off or anything?
So it does. So, like, when you speed it up, like, it won't do, like, the big super attack animations anymore. And even with that, I still think it's a little too slow. Yeah. And it's... Because, like, here's what it is, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, the monster is enraged now, so it's going to... Let's say it, like, switches from... using technical attacks to using speed attacks. My monster wants to do, like, this kind of attack, and I can spend meter to change the type of attack that it does, but I don't really want to do that, and so I'm going to switch out my monster. Or, like, oh, okay, like, I want to target this part of the body, I need to switch out my weapon. And so it's, like, a lot of, like, okay, it's the next turn, I need to swap this thing out and then swap this weapon out and then do this attack. Or it's like, oh, okay, because it's doing this thing, I need to go into the menu, select this attack or select this special move. And it's just like, I think the speed in which you have to change up things is like, it just kind of like brings down the pace of the game just a little bit. And I'm sure there's a way to optimize it where maybe you're switching out things a little bit less, or you're customizing your monster a lot, but you like don't have to do that. Like, switching out is just fine. It will cover your holes. But I feel like if you do that, you're just like slowing down the battle in a way that isn't very satisfying. Because, like, think about a JRPG where, like, you have a cast of 10 characters. And it's like, okay, you can only use 3 characters in battle. Part of what is interesting about that, right, is you making those decisions and not being able to cover a basis. Regular Monster Hunter is interesting in that way too, where, like, there are some fights that will be easier or harder depending on the weapon that you're most comfortable with. And yet, like, yeah, maybe you can break out of your comfort zone and use a weapon that you're not as comfortable with, but, like, you kind of have to, like, work around your own weaknesses. Where here it's like, in battle, I can switch between all these different monsters and, like, all these different weapons and all these different attacks, and that's cool, but in the process of doing that, I'm just kind of slowing things down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's like imagine a JRPG where you have 10 characters and you can have access to them at any time, and, like, every other round you're switching out characters.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of a cool concept, but just the process of doing it becomes a little tedious.
I get that.
Yeah.
What you don't get is the HOTTAKE. And so there were a couple of things that I kind of wanted to talk about on the HOTTAKE, but I ended up settling on this because the regular Easy Allies podcast has not had a chance to talk about it yet because it was revealed today on the day that we're shooting this. Tom Clancy's XDefiant.
XD. Tom Clancy's XD.
Yeah, XD. Which will be a free-to-play multiplayer shooter that focuses on different factions, and they pitched it as this will be a cross between punk rock and Tom Clancy.
Punk rock mosh pit.
Right, yeah, punk rock mosh pit.
And I have a lot that I want to say about this game, and I'm sure you guys have a lot that you want to say about this game, but I think, like, let's talk about it from kind of a top level.
Okay.
Because, before I left, I wrote down... the number of likes that the reveal trailer had on the Ubisoft channel versus the number of dislikes. It had 5.2K likes compared to 5.3K dislikes.
Oh.
So I think,
More dislikes than likes.
Yeah.
Never a good thing.
This is not the most scientific gauge, right? But it is, at a glance, it seems like the reveal is divisive at best.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this game is dead on arrival?
No.
Why?
I never think any game will be dead on arrival. Like, honestly, I'm just optimistic like that. Like, sure, games launch and are dead on arrival, but you know, this is a massive company, one of the biggest companies in the industry, combining a lot of big properties. You know, they've hinted that you know, you're playing as Division characters and Rainbow Six. So I think with the name recognition alone, it'll survive at least a few months minimum. Like, it's not dead on arrival. Yeah.
What do you think, Brad?
I mean, it just depends to me what they gauge their dead on arrival, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't think this game's going to light up the world or anything like that.
It's going to be around, though.
It could be, yeah, it'll be around probably. It'll probably be okay. You know, it doesn't really excite me. I don't have attachment to any of these franchises necessarily or anything like that. But I think it could probably do okay. Like, honestly, I didn't even know, like, Rainbow Six was a big deal until I heard about it.
Right.
Like, I didn't know it was, like, a huge, like, cult or, like, community behind it. Like, I don't think this game is unique enough to get behind that, to have that aspect, but I think it could do okay. But, like, what was the Battle Royale game they did?
Hyperscape.
Hyperscape. Like,
that game is dead, right?
I have no idea.
Like
I have no idea. I granted I haven't paid attention to it.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about it, though, so I don't know.
So this game is honestly giving me very Hyperscape vibes. And the point that I want to try to make is it is sort of, in its words, taking things from these different properties and using them. But at least what I saw in the reveal trailer, it's doing it in like the most generic, like infuriating way possible. And so the way that I want to articulate that, right, is like you can have the iconic Splinter Cell night vision goggles on, and it's like what they want you to do is they want you to go like, oh, those are the goggles, that's cool. But it's like it doesn't even understand the thing that it's referencing. I don't like Splinter Cell because of the goggles.
I know, dude.
Like,
what the hell?
Yes, it is iconic to that series. It is used in its imagery, but that's not why those games are special.
Yeah.
It's like Sam Fisher isn't cool because he has night vision.
Stealth.
Yeah.
Atmosphere.
Right. It's how those games are designed, right? And I feel like it is like removing everything special and is like the most, at least, you know.
It's like them fucking releasing Altair's outfit in every freaking Ubisoft game till the end of time.
Right.
Stop.
Right. And I do want to say that I have not got my hands on this game. I could play it and be like, oh, like there's so much here that I couldn't get just by watching this reveal trailer. You know, that definitely happens. We just kind of had that conversation with Scarlet Nexus. So, you know, my opinion is not finalized, but based on the information that I have in front of me, like, what I said to you guys today is I said I feel like this game is made by an algorithm.
Totally.
I stand behind
Ubisoft in general now. It's all just algorithms. And like, yo, this game could be fun. Totally. 100%. Could easily be fun. Apex Legends is awesome. You know, I was mediocre going into it, and that is a fantastic game. The problem is, though, regardless of what it will or will not be, everything about it right now is unexciting, uninspired.
Yeah, I would say that.
I am not hyped.
Nothing about it that stands out to me.
It is. There is no excitement.
There's no
here.
character that you look at and you go, I want to know more about them.
No, and it's like, yo, the cleaners in Division are cool. Like, I love the world of the Division. I love it. Cleaner with a flamethrower, cool, but like...
But removed from that world?
Exactly.
And mishmashed with other things that don't...
And it leads me into another problem I've had with Ubisoft lately, is that every single one of their games feels like it's designed so that they can use the assets from that game in their other games.
That's
straight up.
Yes.
In this trailer, you see some wall art on the background, and I'm like, I swear to God, I saw that in either Far Cry New Dawn or Watch Dogs Legion.
The excuse here is that it's all these games put together, so... it's acceptable, I guess.
Yeah, but it's like just all their games like have their own differences and quirks, but they seriously are starting to feel the same to me. From Watch Dogs to Valhalla to Division. I'm so fatigued by this company, dude. I'm so fatigued.
I think it's just the shallowness of it all that is really frustrating, because they like show off the different factions and I'm like, these all pretty much look the same.
Yeah.
But beyond
like all
that,
those games are different, but they still have a Ubisoft feeling that goes through them all.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yes.
But I think like at an even broader level than that is like them having the gall to say like, oh, it's punk rock. And it's like
weird marketing.
Like Watch Dogs 2 was pretty punk rock. This is what?
Punk is not neon colors,
right?
You know, punk is not like a weird font. Like this feels like a corporate. Like it's just like taking the all meaning out of something that can have purpose, right? Where it's like, you know, punk ideally has like a purpose, a message, a reason behind the loudness, the noise, the anger, right? It's pushing against something.
Yeah.
And this almost feels like the evil trying to like take ownership of that idea in a way that is just like the most soulless thing.
Yeah.
Like I watched this trailer and I like
soulless.
It's just so
I barely felt any excitement from them announcing it.
Right.
Truly, you know, no disrespect thrown, but like I didn't feel the passion when I was watching that video. I didn't feel it. You know, passion is infectious. Like you're announcing your game. Like I should have felt the excitement and the hype there.
Right.
It just didn't come across that way. I just went through Watch Dogs DLC and it was so refreshing because it was focused Ubisoft. Ubisoft scaled back, you know?
And focused on characters.
And like that was enough for me to really enjoy my time with it. They were taking this character from the past and giving them stories, meaningful stories, and
two characters. From
the past,
and
and playing off their experiences in previous games. And I just really enjoyed it, and it was nice to see Ubisoft on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
This game seems like it will potentially be more focused on a smaller scale, but it also already somehow feels exhausting. Like, I know we're going to get battle passes. I know we're going to get events, you know, the Sam Fisher event, the Assassin's Creed event, Division event.
You can change the color of your goggles.
Yeah.
And maybe you could get those goggles right now if you spend like $5.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just know how it's going to play out.
You know how it's going to play out because it's Ubisoft. Like, I'm not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on this because of the last many years of the way this company's been going. So it is 100%, I think, A-okay to be very skeptical.
Right.
Very skeptical in this situation.
I just don't know. Like we said, we haven't played it. I just don't know if it's going to do anything different enough. Where I'm like, I can only get this kind of experience here, kind of thing.
Well, I think the huge mistake is like, let's say there is something there, right? Because Respawn, this was such a fascinating point when they brought it up, where they're like, yeah, when we talked about Apex Legends, we released it immediately because can you imagine the marketing nightmare of making a Titanfall battle royale coming from EA? It's like, that's an uphill battle, and they're totally right, right? And so they let the game do the talking, whereas XDefiant is like, hey, here's this idea that we're not exciting you at all about, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
They're like, give us feedback.
That
kind of
time
thing.
is like a death sentence, it feels like.
Yeah.
Because, and I know it's hard, right? I struggle with this on this very podcast, describing game feel. It's a very, when you're like, because sometimes the best you can do is like, it's tight or it's precise, you know, and it's language that doesn't really articulate what you're trying to say. But with that being said, I think they're going to have to do more than be like, okay, the guns feel good.
Yeah.
And we know it's a shooter, so we're going to make the shooting feel good.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that mean?
And it feels so disingenuous and cheap, too, to, like, once again, you know, use the nostalgia, like, freaking, you know, oh, it's all these brands colliding. So we're going to get the Division people. We're going to get the Splinter Cell people. And just, like, everything wants to be all connected, all encompassing, Fortnite, MCU. It's like everyone is just chasing that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good, but it's just like, you know, it lacks vision. Mm-hmm. It lacks passion. It just feels so corporate and soulless.
So I want to contrast this with Masahiro Sakurai and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Because that is a game that I think you could also definitely argue plays off nostalgia. Mm-hmm. But the way that it plays off nostalgia is it feels like the creators behind the game care about the thing just as much as you care about the thing.
And they did it a very long time ago on N64, so it's not some...
Yes, but I would say, like, you know, from Brawl on, and especially in Ultimate, they're adding characters that are not first-party Nintendo properties, and they're doing it in fascinating ways, right? So they don't just add the hero from Dragon Quest. It's like, hey, all of the different costumes will be references to different characters. We will have a way to make menu-based attacks work in this fighting game in a way that's really cool. Well, the stage that's very dynamic and fascinating. It's like, I feel like my love for this thing is being respected in the property. You know, even if you don't care about Smash Brothers, you don't like it or whatever, I think it is like irrefutable that love and care goes into so much of what they're making. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't get the sense at all that any of that same love is being applied here, or at least they're not making that case.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
You know, I've mixed feelings on Watch Dogs Legion, but when they revealed it, it's like, oh, this idea is really cool, and I want to learn more about it.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything in this reveal trailer where it's like, that's the hook. Like, that's the thing. And like, if the hook is like, here's a mashup of all these characters, like, you're not mashing them up in an interesting way from the looks of it. It just looks like any other fucking online shooter that's been released ad nauseum.
Like, you're playing as a fucking NPC from The Division.
Right.
Like, that's their selling point. You're an NPC that we've killed, like, millions of, and now, like, you get to be the cleaners.
Right. You know what? It kind of reminds me of Gotham City Imposters.
Fun game, though.
Fun game.
Very
just
fun
like,
game.
Here's these, like, random dress-up people kind of thing.
I was skeptical about that, but that game turned out to be
fun,
freaking awesome.
But it died.
Great.
I don't think it was awesome, but I think
it was awesome.
No, I don't think so. No.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. That's not a word I'm going to throw around so loosely.
I love it.
That's like throwing around a 9 easily.
A 9?
Yeah. And
it's not a 9.
You know, we could be...
An 8 can be awesome.
Great.
An 8. Great and awesome are interchangeable.
We could be eating our words in this game totally, right? Like, I did not think I was going to like Apex Legends, and then I played Apex Legends. So, like, it definitely happens. I'm just saying, like... At this point of time, I don't believe it. And like, there's just so many things about this project that leave a bad taste in your mouth. Because they're like, right, obviously Ubisoft rightfully in the hot waters because they're
toxic as shit.
Yeah, we don't have the bandwidth, I think, to really go into the depth that this story deserves. But essentially, people are abusing their power. It's a very toxic environment. There's a lot that you should read up on and look into. And I feel like when they go like, and here's all the people making this game and they're really passionate about it, it feels hollow, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's all these allegations that you're facing. You're showing a product that doesn't generate any excitement at all. And then you're like, look at all these Zoom calls. It's been really tough. It's just like, it just feels like a lie.
Yeah.
I just don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
You know, like... If people really love this thing and they care about it and they understand it, you'll see it. Mm-hmm. You'll see it immediately.
Yes.
You don't watch the Overwatch reveal trailer and be like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, you know, I could get this anywhere else. No, you don't. It's amazing. Yeah. You by the end of that thing, you care about those little kids. You care about, you know, and it's just like, I don't know. It just feels like it's chasing something that it doesn't even understand.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just like some suits, like, just push some buttons. I don't know.
And even, I remember, I got one of the quotes is like, you know, we want to diversify, you know? And it's like, Ubisoft is legit just trying to reign supreme in all the genres, or like all, you know, they want the free to play.
Piece of pie.
Yeah, right. They want the free to play. They want the never-ending Assassin's Creed.
We're gonna make
Infinity.
Assassin's Creed limitless.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. But you think to yourself like, who wants?
Yeah, they want their like hyper competitive, Rainbow Six and For Honors. Like they're trying to get.
That's exactly what I mean, though. It's like there are people out there who you are one of them. Like I enjoy Assassin's Creed, but you're like I ride and die with the series. I care about it so much. I've been following it for years. I've played every entry, all that stuff. And it's like if you ask any of those die-hard fans that like love Assassin's Creed, would any of them say, I want a games as a service Assassin's Creed? Would that be their number one thing that they want?
Grumbomb, who you know very well by now.
I don't actually know.
You know the name.
I know of him, yeah.
Local legend.
Obsessed with Assassin's Creed. He, too, like me, has been there since the first one. It's one of his favorite franchises in the industry.
Yeah.
And right when that news broke, I texted him, and he was so... He was bummed. He was angry. He was like, what? Because he ran into just so many bugs and glitches. And on the way up here, Brad was like, dude, you could have cut 1/3 of Valhalla and I wouldn't have even known and it would have been 10 times better. And it's like, they can't even get that right. And they're talking about like infinity?
Right. Yeah. There's like an almost 0% chance that that's going to work in a way that is satisfying. And what I mean is like, so that passion that you have for something that once was magical, right? Rather than it feeling like the companies responsible for these things are in tune with your wants and desires and like they're listening to you and they themselves are fans, you feel like that passion is being exploited and you're just like being forced to like shove down this meal that like doesn't taste good and is not what you want, but you feel like obliged to consume it anyway because you love this thing.
Yes. Because I don't want to miss out on when it gets back to being good again.
Right. Like, which may never happen.
And it's like, dude,
Valhalla's good.
Valhalla's good. Yeah. It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah, I think you get the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, and that's just Ubisoft as a whole now. I think it's just too much.
Big.
And they need to scale it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they do too.
Scale it back, focus up, and like get a passionate vision.
Yes.
You know? Like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. Those games had a freaking vision. You know, people didn't like some of the modern day shit, but it still felt like a game that like was really going for a specific thing and they were going for it. And then now it just feels so corporate.
I mean, it's a machine now.
It just feels like such a machine.
It's video games, I guess, but yeah.
But
you definitely feel it.
You know, people like to rag on Last of Us and part 2, but like I think of the God of War as well.
Vision,
oh
you know,
my God.
Those are some of the biggest budget games in the biz, but it still feels like God of War still felt like a family operation, dude.
It felt like a wonderful vision.
It felt like a family was making this game.
Yeah.
Whereas Ubisoft just feels like a soulless machine.
It felt like another, we need another entry kind of thing.
Yeah.
We were talking before the podcast about, like what our favorite games of the year were, and I said, I think Guilty Gear Strive is my favorite game of the year, and you just made me realize, like, I think a big part of the reason why it's my favorite game of the year is because that vision feels so strong, where it was like, this is what we want to accomplish. We're going to take big risks to do it. We're not going to hold everything sacred. We're not going to chase after what everybody else is going to do. We're really going to try to push the genre forward in meaningful ways, and to do that, we have to take risks.
Yeah.
And they crushed it. And you can't always crush it when you go that route. Yeah. Sometimes you're going to mess up, but like, they did crush it, and I think they reached a level of success that they wouldn't have if they had just played it safe or, followed everybody else or whatever, or didn't push anything. Yeah. And it's like, nothing about XDefiant feels like it's going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just like a game that'll just be like consumed and then forgotten.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, because streamers are going to drive this thing.
That's
and it's
what
like
they're banking on.
They're banking on
that in like the most soulless way too.
Who is gonna leave Fortnite and Apex and Warzone and 14 and these juggernauts to play XDefiant? I just don't see it happening. Right. I don't see it. I'm skeptical. I'm very skeptical about this.
Well, it's just I feel like that system is going to be and has been manipulated in a really gross way where it's like I know exactly who you're going to see.
So many ads.
Yeah,
coming.
and you're going to be like sponsored by Ubisoft.
Yep.
You know, and
Hashtag
they're gonna,
ad incoming.
They're going to get their money. They're going to play it for like a week, and then they'll go back to
whatever.
Apex or
Valorant
Warzone or whatever. Yeah,
Valorant.
Yeah. Straight up. I forgot about Valorant too.
Yeah.
I don't like being the cynical about.
I think,
but it's Ubisoft,
games.
dude.
Yeah, okay.
What are we supposed to do?
Ubisoft, I feel like is a very frustrating company. I do like there's small glimpses of hope every now and then.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Watch Dogs Legion's Bloodline was good.
Well,
Mario and
the
Rabbids.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
like once in a while a sweet little like cool thing.
Right.
Like even Child of Light, I was grateful for.
Yeah,
just like
Immortals
a small,
Phoenix Rising.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Immortal Phoenix Rising rides a dangerous line though.
Yeah, it does.
Sure, yeah.
It does.
I'm with you, and I think that's why it's so easy to get so upset about these things. Is like I'm currently playing Valhalla, and there's a lot to like.
Totally.
I may be playing it until the end of time.
Yeah.
But because it's so long, but it's. I think that's what I'm trying to get is like you see glimpses of like something real, like something you can latch onto, where it's like I care about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's like that thing that you care about has to be filtered through this like disgusting machine
The Ubisoft
that is just
machine.
like so obvious and so blatant that like whatever makes it through that filter is like fine, but not nearly like the gem that it should be.
Yes, Ben. Yeah, and I just get concerned too because the industry I feel like now is moving towards.
We're just gonna leave that.
Yeah, it's moving towards never-ending games. Truly,
Oh, it is.
I'm so
That's what they said.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we're moving to.
I'm
Yeah.
so scared of this because games are so expensive to make, and it's like if you're gonna be GTA Online and just keep making billions of dollars, like why do we ever need to make a new one? Like,
Right.
You know. And Ubisoft, I feel like, is going down that route. For Honor, Rainbow Six Siege, those games have been out forever. They're going to do it with Assassin's Creed Infinity next. It just feels like this whole company wants to make their couple games and have them go on forever and just, like, keep cashing the paychecks.
Like, but it's just, sometimes it's just so obvious. You know what I mean? Like you build up this audience, this following, and maybe it's not the biggest audience, and maybe it's the biggest following, but it's like they care about your thing so much, and then you abuse them, and then you just go back to what worked before. So
I feel betrayed as an Assassin's Creed fan, for sure. I feel betrayed.
But I think about like Tekken doing Tekken Revolution and going free to play, and it's like no one wants this. You know, it's like why do you have to have this embarrassment?
Right. I know.
And then go back to like an actual good game that had so much love and care and time. But not that Revolution didn't, but it's like what I'm saying is it's like why do you do these things that feel so naked in what they're trying to achieve rather than just like I don't know, like
I think a really frustrating part is, especially about Ubisoft, is the fans are telling you what they want.
Yeah.
For over and
For
over.
a long time.
No one's listening.
That's what it feels like.
And you know what the thing about fan is?
No one
fans
is
are
listening.
like, and I hate saying this, but it's totally true. All you have to do is give them a crumb.
Yeah.
Like
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with me. I'll take all the Coulson
Right, it's
crumbs.
like-
all day Coulson crumbs.
it's like even if you just listen a little bit, the fans will appreciate it so much, and like you'll generate like so much goodwill.
Yeah.
Just like having your ear bent down a little
Yeah.
bit can work wonders, and it just. Yeah, you're right, Brad. It's just like it's so obvious what people want, and it's amazing that they're so unwilling to do it.
And it's like from the public forum of Twitter all the way down to big think pieces, everyone is universally saying the same thing. Make your game smaller. Make them shorter. Hey, I like Assassin's Creed, but it's too big. Across the board. I mean, obviously only a Sith deals in absolutes. So obviously you're going to have
Yes.
defenders
Right.
of the Assassin's Creed length, but like pretty lopsided of people wanting them smaller and then just Eve spitting in the face of everyone saying, nope, not going to do it.
Is it though when Valhalla is the most successful
Yes, it
Assassin's
is.
Creed
It is.
so far?
It's a great argument, Ben. It's like, Last Jedi was one of the highest grossing movies ever, but like a lot of people hate it. It's just the name is too big to fail. Assassin's Creed is too big to fail.
Well, I have to wonder, like, if there is sense in, like, Valhalla is like the most successful Assassin's Creed right now, and obviously they are going in a new direction, but it's like, if you look at the discourse around it, there are a lot of people saying that it's too long, right? And so, like, if they just keep chasing the numbers without actually listening to what people are saying, that's not always going to be the case, right? And like, Assassin's Creed already had to dramatically reinvent itself because people were burned out because they were playing broken, buggy, trash releases, right? And it's like it already had to completely do this reinvention. So isn't it better to build off of the good faith and like slowly expand and succeed? Final Fantasy XIV is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. It's not like A Realm Reborn came out and people were very happy with it, but that was a relatively small pool to what we're seeing now, where it's like, this game is super fucking old, and it's getting more attention than a good amount of games. Yeah, maybe than ever.
Its lifetime.
And it's doing that because it just keeps getting better. It keeps releasing strong content that people are excited about, that they want to play. And so it's like literally watching this seed like blossom into a mighty tree. And it's like, is that not ultimately a better path? Like a more sustainable, like, don't you want that sustainability?
They're pleasing their audience. And like, when you talk to 14 fans, they're usually very positive about the game,
and they're very passionate.
Yeah, I like that game a lot. There's some parts I don't like, but I highly recommend that game, and I think it's one of the best MMOs on the market, period, right now.
And then
because they do good work, they listen to their fans,
and just like Ubisoft, Blizzard doesn't listen to their fans.
That's what it feels like.
It is paying the price.
These two giant juggernauts with too much money.
We'll see how it goes, I guess. Like,
man, these are two companies.
Right. Well, we've talked about this. Like, Diablo 4 is kind of like the one game you cannot screw up. Like, you screw up Diablo 4, it's like over, it feels like.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Because it's like Overwatch 2 doesn't really have a lot of momentum going right now. Like, no one's really excited about that I've talked to.
I don't remember why I had this thought like a day or two ago, but I was like thinking about, like, what if Blizzard was like, we're making World of Warcraft 2? And I thought to myself,
it'd be hype as hell.
No, I don't think it would be. I don't have any faith that
they could do it.
They could do it. And I mean that in like multiple ways. A, that it would be good, or B, that they could like even finish it. like
that's why they do Warcraft 4 and that God, it'd be a perfect gap between WoW 1 and WoW 2. You do Warcraft 4.
Yeah, but it would be. They won't.
What is amazing to me is, like, that is my attitude when growing up. You could just put the Blizzard name on it, and I'd be confident in spending money on it, and I would be confident that it would be one of the best experiences that I would have that year.
Yeah. Yeah, times change.
Times change.
They do, yeah.
Times change.
And it's time.
Sad note.
For some emails. Yeah.
The fall of Blizzard and Ubisoft.
It's so amazing. I feel this
it's not too late to come back.
I feel this has happened multiple times on Frame Trap, where something just eventually dwindles into Blizzard shit talking.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna keep doing it.
I think it's because we all love, like, all three of us really love Blizzard.
Yeah,
a lot of their IPs. We care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm convinced we'll never see StarCraft again.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I don't think you'll see an RTS from Blizzard again. That's the way it feels. All those people are left.
You can pay a very high price for WoW expansions that you've already played.
Yeah, if you want collector's editions. But they're, at least on the Blizzard front, a lot of those people left and made their own studios.
Yes.
So we'll see the fruits of their labor later.
Maybe
so hopefully,
a year from now, Blizzard will come back. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the next WoW expansion will be sick. I don't know.
I mean, if EA shows Dead Space, like, EA's back.
That's a step in the right direction.
We just had, like, a global pandemic, which is one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Right.
Like, anything could happen.
Lifetime,
I don't know, man.
Yeah. Anything could happen.
I mean, EA was in dire straits. And they've been on the ups, You got Star Wars Squadron, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Some good games.
Some Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
But then you got some shit that's on fire.
Yeah.
Like BioWare.
Yeah. Definitely.
You think about a lot of it, and you're like, oh, damn. But I guess that's just the nature of video games, ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they'll come back.
The new Dead Space.
Yeah, but like, how can EA Play be happening and they're like, yeah, we're not showing Dragon Age or Mass Effect or anything?
Because they're all in on Dead Space.
BioWare is all in on Dead Space?
No. BioWare? I think they're so timid now, and I don't think they want to show anything until they're really confident.
Yeah. Dude, Legendary Edition bought them time.
Seemed to be well received, I guess.
I don't know about that.
It is. I am ready now. I'm on the hook for a Mass Effect whenever. Straight up. It was incredible.
Yeah,
it made me obsessed with that universe again.
It's not even so much Mass Effect that I'm thinking of. It's just like, where the fuck is Dragon Age? Like, what?
Yeah, problems.
Just, like, what do you mean you can't show anything?
Anything. Wild. Games are expensive and
hard to make. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know.
But yeah, I know. I understand. It's like we've known about that game for a long time.
True.
Our first email. This, you know what? We've been angry.
Going crazy.
This will turn us right back around. I swear to God. This email from Son of Sparta, who says Sparta, Son of Sparta.
Sparta, don't make cry.
Yeah, there you go.
Sparta with a D.
Sparta with a D.
Is that Dante and Virgil then, I guess?
Hello, Ben and Allies. Yes. I hope you are having a lovely day. Since this wasn't discussed in the podcast, I thought it would be a good idea to bring it up here. As you most likely already know, 2021 is Persona's 25th anniversary, and Atlus has announced their plans for it, which include the announcements of 7 projects starting from September 2021 all the way to autumn 2022, with some signs from the merchandise store already pointing at Persona 6 and possibly another. I have so much hesitancy about that, but maybe. And possibly another remake of a mainline entry being among these announcements. I was wondering, what projects would you like to see to get announced as part of the celebration, and what are your expectations for them? Personally, I'm hoping for Persona 6 and Persona 3 Definitive Edition.
I expect to see a next-gen version of Persona 5 Strikers.
Why? Isn't there already...
It's last gen.
Is it PS4 only?
It's last gen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess. The Switch, yeah.
Yep, that'll be there.
That's what you want?
That's not what I want. That's just what I expect.
No. The point of this is, like, what do you want?
Oh, what do I want?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Persona 3 Remake. Because Brad talks shit on Tartarus, so I never want to play that game.
Well, it's not just that there is a lot that could be remade there and improved, like Tartarus, but there really is no, like, definitive edition for Persona 3. There's, like... Portable has some really cool things, but it doesn't have everything from the PS2 version. So it's like you could combine those in such a way where it really would be dramatically improved on top of, maybe
not just like that map
quality
you're
of life
clicking on to go to places, I guess.
Because 4 and 5, 2 of my favorite games of all time, but 3 I would love to.
Yeah, because there's like 3 versions of Persona 3, I think. There's the base, there's there's
FES, and then portable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I definitely think 3 would be like the one to do that would generate the most interest. And I think it would be super awesome. Persona 3 is an incredible game. It's definitely worth experiencing if you've enjoyed Persona 4 and Persona 5, despite some complaints. So yeah, I think there's a lot they could do. I think it would be awesome. That being said, I think it would be really sick to get a remake of either Persona 1 or the Persona 2.
That's what I was going to say.
Which they have remade in the past. We did not get the PSP remake of Eternal Punishment.
Yeah.
And I just, like, you talked about, like, Tartarus and improving that. There's so much that you could improve in Persona 1 and 2. And I do feel like those games get less attention anyway, and so it'd be neat to see, like, okay, if you really, like, remake it and you really, like, kind of go for it, what would you do and what would that look like? I think that would be really cool. So I'd be into that.
Oh, I think a new arena game.
That's what I was just going to say. I want Persona 5 Arena so badly.
And you put 3 and 4 characters in it.
Absolutely. Yes. So people don't understand, other than, like, the people that, like, really put the time into it. I feel like, in a weird way, Persona 4 Arena, like, almost slipped under the radar. It's so much better than it has any right to be. Not only is it actually like a really good fighting game on a fundamental level, like how they handled it, including characters from both Persona 3 and 4, and not just like mashing them together, but being like, okay, this is where they are in their lives now and what they're doing, was so fascinating and so cool. And Arc System Works, at their best, they're just gods, and I would love to see, like, what are the Persona 5 characters doing now? What are they doing after Strikers? What how old are the Persona 3 characters? What's going on with them? Like, what do they look like? And it's just, it would be so cool.
What were the DS games called again?
Persona Q.
Maybe they do a third Q game or something for Switch or something like that.
Yeah, I think the Q games are definitely very charming, very good, very fun. I think that would be neat. Yeah.
Obviously besides 6, but this isn't Persona, but like I want to know more about the fantasy game.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm like the most hungry for right now.
Totally.
Like I care about that more than P6 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still never played Royal. I'm saving it.
Yeah, man.
Because I love
not
refined
going
games.
anywhere,
So like in another couple years or so.
Oh, like a next gen version or whatever would be nice for that game. Put it on every platform at least now.
I would also be happy if they did like the Final Fantasy Pixel Perfect thing, but in a way that actually makes sense. Like, I'm big on collections, right? And I think it'd be really neat, even if they just were like Persona 1 through 5, they're on Switch.
Sick.
I think that would be
I mean, even
pretty cool.
I think 4 did well for them on Steam
It
or
did
PC,
extremely well for them. Yeah.
Hopefully you get those games on other platforms.
Yeah, just more people experiencing them.
Yeah.
Because that definitely happened with Persona 4 on PC, where people are like, oh, I've never played this, and yeah, it is really good.
Hell of a game.
And I think P5 was already out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
10
But
out of
P5,
10s.
man, locked to Sony.
Double
I
tens.
know. At least proper.
Even just like all those games coming to Game Pass would be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Yeah.
Pay up.
Yep.
Let's see. What else would we want? What's like really outside
a
the
mascot
box?
beat 'em up game where you're the mascot.
What about Persona Tactics?
That'd be sick, yeah.
That could be
that could
really
be cool.
cool.
That'd
be
And
really
like, because you
That sounds
think,
ambitious.
Like, part of what makes Fire Emblem or contemporary Fire Emblem so enjoyable is how much you can interact with and romance characters on top of really compelling strategic gameplay. And it's like, Persona pretty much already has that. Like, you could easily adapt it into that format in a way that makes sense.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Persona.
Fun email. Thank you, Son of Sparta. Next
I
question.
feel like 6 is a really long far.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Feels far.
Yeah, when people are talking about Persona 6,
Yeah,
like
whoa.
maybe I'll eat these words, but it's like,
Whoa.
do you remember
10-year
like,
life cycle. 10-year cycle.
I feel like we'll get a Dragon Quest 12 situation with it, where they'll
think-
like release
Oh,
a
yeah.
logo.
we're getting
year.
Dragon Quest 12 before Persona 6.
Yeah, we'll get it
Definitely
before.
But it's just gonna take.
It's
a
going to be
while.
like that. It's going to be drip feed.
Drip feed, dude.
real small.
With
Drip.
Here's the
their,
color
like-
of the game, the theme.
not including like
green.
spin-off or updated versions of things, Atlas really takes their time.
They sure do.
Right? So, again, Shin Megami Tensei 5 was announced at the reveal of the Switch.
Yep.
Is not currently out.
Drip.
Yep.
Not to mention the notorious delays for Persona 5. But anyway,
Worth the wait.
absolutely
Yeah, it was
worth
great.
the wait.
It was great.
Yes. Talking about companies that like are doing right by stuff.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Vision, passion.
Okay. Next question comes in from Jared. This is a contentious one.
Oh.
Why are Nintendo's biggest fans so insecure? Hello, allies. With the recent news of the Steam Deck launching late this year, I wanted to ask what is arguably the first real competition for the Nintendo Switch. The Switch is a runaway success, and I don't see the Steam Deck slowing down sales for Nintendo, but I've seen a lot of discourse online act either dismissive of Valve or just arrogant with Nintendo's success. As a Switch owner who is excited about the prospect of getting a Steam Deck, I gotta ask, why are Nintendo's biggest fans so damn insecure? All I see is people trying to downplay the Steam Deck or act like it doesn't matter. With 100 million plus people in the Steam ecosystem, the Steam Deck could certainly be a success. I just think Nintendo fans are way too cocky atop the mountain right now. Look, the Switch is a massively successful platform. There are a bunch of great games, both out now and on the horizon, and frankly, any competition that might come from this would only be a good thing for us consumers, so why are they so salty? I would love to get your thoughts on the general discourse regarding the announcement of the Steam Deck as it pertains to maybe putting a dent into Switch's sales, what it means for the future.
This is a funny email.
This is a very funny email. Yeah. It's so funny because, like, and maybe it's just because I don't have access to Twitter anymore. I haven't.
For the best.
Exactly. I have not seen what Jared is describing here. In fact, I've seen. I would say general
praise.
Yeah, I've seen like healthy skepticism and questions, but I've seen a lot of warm reception to the Steam Deck. It certainly hasn't been a Tom Clancy's XDefiant situation from what I've witnessed.
Why is there an X?
But with the internet,
XDefiant.
You know why it is?
No.
Do you really want to be bummed out right now? So in XDefiant, what they do is they highlight and separate the XD.
Yeah.
So it can be
like
the
XD? The face?
A dumb
Disney XD?
So like when people in like Twitch
they type
chat go
XD.
Yeah,
it's like that.
Yeah, it's like that.
So they can do #XD.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's so fucking stupid and cringeworthy and. But anyway.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
In terms of this,
Sorry.
Nintendo fans, I guess.
Yeah.
It's literally like that for any brand. That level of fandom.
Yes.
Like you're gonna run that. That's not exclusive to Nintendo fans.
Yeah.
You will.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many tweets I've seen either by Microsoft or Sony, and the opposite is like Xbox is better.
Yeah.
PS4 is better or whatever. And every single fucking one.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. That's how people are.
For the biggest things on the planet.
All fandoms are shit.
Yes. They all get crazy.
Yes.
It's not exclusive to Nintendo.
The MCU lately has been crazy.
It's
been crazy.
I was thinking about making the HOTTAKE the Steam Deck, but because you guys talked about it on the Easy Allies podcast, I didn't want us repeating the same points. I do have a lot of thoughts on the Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
I've put a pre-order in. I think it's very interesting. I do think I guess to sum up my thoughts, I think it could tap into a market that has not been tapped into. I saw a number of comments where people are like, I've been wanting to get into PC gaming, but it's just too expensive. This is a low-cost, portable way for me to do that. I do definitely think there's something here, and I think it's a really cool idea, and I think their approach to it, where it is actually a PC, and you get all of the benefits from it being a PC, are interesting. It's a very open-ended platform.
Right.
Are very, very cool. I'm super interested. But there is reason to be skeptical, and this skepticism is not like toxic negativity. It's just healthy, right? So Valve has done incredible things, right? So you know what they are. I don't need to name them, but they've also done things that you probably don't even remember existed.
Artifact.
Artifact's a great
Steam
one.
box.
Yeah, Steam machines.
Yeah, Steam machine. Yeah.
Literally just gone.
Gone.
Yeah, the Steam controller even virtually gone. Steam Link, right? They have kind of a Google problem where they have the bandwidth to experiment, but they don't necessarily get behind those experiments in a convincing way that actually forces people to adopt those things in a meaningful way that creates a lot of impact. And they own Steam. They can abandon any project they want and be fine.
They have tons of money.
So I think Valve's approach is both a blessing and a curse when it comes to things like this. This could be huge. This could be really impactful. It could create a new market. And I agree with the emailer that Nintendo desperately needs direct competition.
Yeah.
I really do
agree.
think that would help
I
things.
agree.
Yes. I love Nintendo. I love the Switch. I genuinely think it's one of the best things Nintendo's ever done. But Nintendo on top of the mountain is not always the best thing. I think it is good to bite at the heels of any company and force them to improve things for consumers. So I agree with that sentiment very much.
Monday Night Wars. Best time because of competition.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I am genuinely interested.
Yeah.
And to answer, like, don't give a shit about insecurity.
Yeah, don't give
a shit about
that.
it doesn't matter. It's fine. All right. Our last email comes in from Snowcone Guy. And I really like this email. I think it's pretty interesting. Hello, Ben and Allies. I would like to pick your brain about the words and expressions that are used in the sphere of gaming and gaming journalism. Are there any expressions that you love or dislike? Is there a certain use of words that you are a stickler about? Do you wish certain terms would be replaced or more specific? My personal gripes are when plain references in games are called Easter eggs, and when rumors are talked about as leaks or reports. Those are good things to point out. I assume many of us have the same thoughts about such things, so why not share them?
I guess in terms of words, I wouldn't use in like a review or something. I try to avoid mixed bag, I guess.
That was the one I was going to bring up. I hate mixed bag.
Yeah.
Mixed bag.
It's a crutch that people use.
I think I used that one time, and Bloodward was like, "Don't use that."
Yes.
That's like, he's like, that's what, like, everyone uses that. It's very basic. I'm like, oh, okay.
A recent one
again.
A recent one I've noticed that like so many people are doing on Twitter and in reviews and everything is adding the word here. Here. They keep adding here. Like, yo, this is a good thing here when they're like referencing something or like it's something I've noticed, dude. That's so interesting. It's so weird because like usually you can just drop the here altogether, you know, but they keep like using it. It's very strange. Be on the lookout for it. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I'll probably
like this is the right take here, or you could just say this is the right take.
I think
you know they keep adding that.
I think that is literally because, and speaking of words that are overused, literally is one of them that I'm very guilty of overusing. But that's social media shaping language because of like the quote tweet.
Yes.
Where they're letting the platform do the work of the language. Yeah.
And now it's in reviews and stuff and like articles. I'm seeing
that stuff is
everywhere.
Definitely gonna spill over.
Yeah.
It's not so much a problem now, but visceral is a very good word that is abused and used when it is not doing the work that it could be doing if it was used effectively.
Let them go.
Yep. That reminded me of what they even fucking said in the XDefiant reveal. Do you know what they said? High octane.
Oh God!
High octane? What is this? Like Too Fast, Too Furious? Like 2001? High octane? You're gonna show off your generic game and call it high octane?
You know, I don't. What? Honestly, when I think of high octane, the only thing I think
of Biker Boys. I think
of like bad movie trailers from like 2003.
Yeah.
Like real people don't actually use that. No. Like you don't
high octane thrill ride.
Yeah. Like if I were to come to you and I'd be like, dude, Huber, what did you think of this action movie? You wouldn't go the high octane action. You wouldn't do that. That's how people talk. You would do that. That's so good. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Something that drives me insane and has been beaten until there is nothing left. Nothing can just be nothing can just be evaluated anymore.
Right.
I did it again. I did it with literally.
Yeah.
Every fucking thing is either overrated or underrated.
Yes.
Stop it.
I know.
Stop it.
My least favorite thing is trash. When people say, this is trash.
I say that a lot.
But it's like, you're being dramatic.
Yes.
Like
totally.
90% of the time.
Yes. But just because you like something or dislike something does not mean the consensus of it is
overrated.
Or is overrated or underrated.
Right.
Stop. Just stop. Put a little more thought into justifying your opinion other than that.
You need a Bloodworth questioning what you're saying
at
all times.
High octane.
High octane.
They said it in the 2021 trailer.
Punk rock mosh pit.
High octane.
Start sneaking that in reviews.
Yeah.
That is going to do it for Frame Trap. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. If you would like to send an email into Frame Trap, the address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. Once again, that is askeasyallies@gmail.com. Such a fun episode. Thank you so much to my panelists, Michael Huber and Bradley Ellis. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time.